On a chilly December Saturday morning, as I was clearing snow from my driveway for the umpteenth time in 43 winters, my phone buzzed. My usual routine involved shoveling, grabbing coffee, and then heading to Kowalski's hardware store. That's just how life goes. At 9:47 am, I received a text from Linda, my wife. "Don't call me, need space. Not your business where I am." This message, coming from the woman I've been married to since 1982, felt like it was meant for a stranger. Despite my confusion, I dialed her number repeatedly, only to reach her voicemail each time. I sent another text, fingers trembling under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Don't come home," I wrote. Yet she never did. The store clerk gave me a sympathetic look. Soon after, my phone was filled with 20 missed calls and 15 frantic texts in just 10 minutes, but Linda was nowhere to be found. The one who predicted this news would spread across town by dinner proved correct. It was merely the start. My phone scorched a mark in my cup holder as I drove home. It kept flashing, calls, messages, calls, messages. Yet I refrained from touching it, my hands clinging to the steering wheel as if navigating through an I-80 blizzard, maintaining control of 18 wheels between lines. Empty was the house upon arrival, a fact I knew already. Nonetheless, I examined each room, hoping against hope that I had somehow overlooked her. Her coffee cup still stood on the counter from earlier, lipstick trace on the rim. The pot was half empty, grown cold. I drained it into the sink, watching the chocolate-hued vortex vanish. Our bedroom perfumed with her recent scent. Not the old one she'd worn for decades, linked to Sunday mornings and their soft, powdery aroma. This new fragrance was fresher, sweeter, a scent that didn't fit the woman I'd wed in 1982. I perched on the bed's edge and finally faced my phone. All messages conveyed a similar message. "Ray, answer. We need to discuss something. Stop this behavior. You're acting immature." The last one left a bitter taste. Am I the one being immature? I wasn't the one who vanished and made it your concern where I am. I attempted to call once more. Voicemail, her voice, pre-recorded and cheerful. "Hello, you've reached Linda. Leave a message." I didn't. The remainder of Saturday passed slowly. I prepared a sandwich I didn't touch, watched a game I didn't watch. The house made its usual noises. Furnace kicking in, fridge humming, the third step from the bottom of the porch creaking as the wood contracted in the cold. But without Linda present, every sound felt odd, as if the house was inquiring about her absence and I had no response. By dusk, I was standing at the kitchen window, gazing out at Ed Kowalski's place adjacent to mine. His porch light was on, as it has been since his wife Marie passed away 4 years ago. Ed mentioned he liked knowing someone would notice if he fell. 11 p.m. knock. Small town insurance agent. Seemed evident through my own window, as bright as a TV screen. Ed, in his flannel coat, stood there, fogging breath in December's chill. At 72, sturdy as the day he retired from 4 decades of electrical work, Polish immigrant who arrived at 19 with only a toolbox and a work ethic more potent than a priest's. He noticed my lights, he said. "All okay, Ray?" I should have affirmed, sent him away. But his inquiry, void of pity or curiosity, simply neighbor checking on neighbor, constricted my throat. "Linda is gone," I disclosed unintentionally. Ed nodded slowly. He saw her leave around midday, carrying a suitcase. Of course he had. From that porch of his, he observed everything. Not nosy, cautious, vigilant. The way one becomes when they've lost someone and start noticing the subtle cues overlooked before their absence was felt. "Will she return?" he inquired. "I'm uncertain, so I moved aside." "Do you need coffee?" "I recently brewed some." We settled at my kitchen table, the one Linda selected in 1985 from a garage sale, which she refurbished herself. Oak, sturdy, ornate legs. She took pride in that table. Now I ponder if she's seated at another table, recounting tales of her life where I'm merely a footnote. "For how long?" Ed inquired. "For what duration?" "For how long have you sensed something amiss?" I gripped my coffee mug tightly. The warmth was comforting. "Perhaps 6 months," I replied. She joined that gym on Route 9, started frequenting it daily, claiming she aimed to improve her health and feel better. I believed it would benefit her. Ed drank in silence. She's behaved differently lately, I continued. Remote, often engrossed in her phone. But Ed, we've been married for 43 years. People evolve, settle into routines. I assumed it was simply, I don't know, growing older. I'm not exactly making a mark on the world these days. You're 68, still alive. Attempt telling her that. Down went Ed's mug, its clatter resonating in the tranquil kitchen. Ray, you well know I keep to myself. However, I've observed vehicles here when you're absent, not hers. Additionally, I've spotted her departures occasionally, even during daytime hours, attire that appears far from gym attire. A shiver ran down my spine. Could you describe these vehicles? Red pickup truck, recent model, one of those polished ones adorned with chrome. He paused for thought. Spotted it today, arrived approximately at 10 am. She filled the vehicle with boxes before departing, accompanied by her suitcase. I fixed my gaze on him. You mean the boxes? I couldn't discern from here, only observed her carrying items from your garage. The garage, which was where I next made my way, exiting Ed and entering the chill of the kitchen, flicking the light switch. Along the pegboard were tools, a lawnmower in the corner, and dusty fishing equipment. All seemed ordinary until I reached the rear shelf. The missing box contained my Vietnam memorabilia, including my Bronze Star and my father's Korean War dog tags, along with letters I'd written from Da Nang that my mother kept and passed on to me after her death. For over 5 decades, it held memories in a cardboard box, only now it seems to have vanished. I returned indoors. Ed remained at the table, watching me. He had taken my service items, Ed. This wasn't what I expected. He nodded as if anticipating such an action. Ray, I can't make sense of this situation, but based on what I've witnessed and know about you, it doesn't seem justifiable. I wanted to trust him, but standing in my kitchen at midnight, with my wife absent and my past pilfered, I questioned my own identity. Linda returned home Tuesday evening. I was seated in the recliner where I'd been for 3 days when I heard her key turn. A strange feeling surged within me, relief and fear blending into a metallic taste like pennies in my mouth. She entered quietly, sniffling, not the dramatic sobs, but tears streaming down her face without being wiped away. She placed her handbag on the table, the refurbished yard sale piece, and stood in the doorway dividing the kitchen and living room. We need to discuss something, she said, Ray. I lowered the television volume, not switching it off, just muted, as if this wouldn't take long, as if I could return to the illusion of normalcy. She settled on the couch, at a distance that might as well have been miles apart. I've been spending time with someone, she revealed. Her voice was hushed, unlike her usual booming one that filled rooms. Her name is Derek. I met him at the gym. The room seemed to lose its air. It isn't. She dabbed her eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen. He was just kind to me, attentive. And I felt, dear Ray, I felt youthful again, noticed, significant. You are significant to me, I replied weakly. My voice sounded dull, lifeless. Have I, indeed? She gazed at me then, truly seeing me for once. Can you recall the last time you genuinely observed me, Ray, not merely passing by in the kitchen or sitting beside me at church? When did you last gaze upon me and recognize me? I found myself unable to answer that question, could not remember. That fear gripped me more intensely than her tears, more so than the name Derek echoing between us. It's over, she declared. I was the one who terminated it. I told him I couldn't continue this way, that I had to prioritize my marriage. She displayed her phone, pointed out the blocked number. See, he can no longer contact me now. I fixated on that blocked number as if it were a lifeline. I apologize, she said, tears flowing more abundantly now. I'm sorry, Ray. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose this. She gestured around the living room, our home since 1982. Can we make an effort to repair this? Can we try? What response was expected from me then? To propose a divorce, perhaps. At 68 years old, I decided it was time for a fresh start, dividing our possessions, preparing to tell our remaining friends about my wife's infidelity with a gym acquaintance. All right, I replied. She visited then, seated on the rest of my recliner's arm, took my hand. Her touch was comforting. I'd neglected her warmth. "Thank you," she murmured. "We can overcome this. I assure you, we'll be fine." For 5 days, I trusted her. She prepared my favorite meals: pot roast on Wednesday, meatloaf on Thursday, and the chicken casserole with the top layer of stuffing that I'd loved since our early marriage. She found humor in my old tales, the ones I'd recounted countless times. She held my hand during breakfast at the table. On Saturday mornings, she made pancakes. "Do you remember when we used to make these every Saturday?" she questioned, cooking them on the griddle. The aroma permeated the kitchen: butter, maple syrup, and the distinctive sweetness of batter meeting hot iron. "Before you dedicated yourself to long-haul trucking," I recollected. Each Saturday morning had been ours, but the trucking company provided more profitable routes, and Saturdays turned into simply another day spent on the highway, traveling from here to wherever the cargo required. "Yes, I recall," I said. She smiled, placed a meal before me, kissed my scalp gently. It felt authentic. It felt like returning home after 4 decades of absence. The next morning, we attended church together, sitting in our traditional pew, 3 rows from the back on the left side. We've occupied that spot for 43 years. People nodded, smiled, unaware. Whatever was fractured between us remained hidden to others. That evening, I hung up her coat. It was then that I found it. The receipt was in her pocket, thermal paper already beginning to deteriorate. Holiday Inn Express, room 412, dated 2 days prior. The same night, she told me she was driving to Wichita to assist her sister, Carol, with some Christmas decorations. In the hallway, clutching my coat in one hand and a receipt in the other, with the TV blaring from the living room, I heard Linda's laughter ringing out, some unseen show I wasn't watching. The sound echoed through the house as if everything was normal, as if the world wasn't collapsing bit by bit on that receipt. Room 412, it was Friday night. Wichita was a 3-hour drive away. The Holiday Inn Express lay 20 minutes down Route 9, just beyond the gym where she'd met Derek. I gently tucked the receipt into my wallet and hung up her coat. Upon returning to the living room, she looked at me and smiled. "All good?" she asked. "Fine," I replied. "Everything is fine." I settled back into my recliner and waited for Ed's visit on Tuesday, but he came on Monday night instead. It was after dusk, already growing chilly with temperatures in the teens. I spotted him outside the window, standing on my porch, phone in hand and a face that signaled a grim message. I didn't let him knock more than once before I opened the door. "Come in," I said. He shook his head instead. "You need to step outside, Ray." He showed me his phone pictures he'd taken at 2 p.m. yesterday while I was playing poker. The first image displayed Linda and a man loading crates into a red pickup truck. My garage door was visible in the background. The man was in his 30s, muscular, wearing a fitted athletic shirt highlighting every muscle. He had a hand on Linda's lower back. The second photo zoomed in. The crate he held bore my handwriting, "Vietnam, Ray's stuff," written in black marker. Peripheral vision dimmed. He indicated there was more, Ed whispered softly. He navigated to another image, one of Linda kissing him, right in my driveway, broad daylight, visible to any passerby. For how long? My voice seemed alien. I'd been taking photos for the past 3 weeks, following their initial encounter, reasoning vaguely. I wasn't sure what I was reasoning, if perhaps I might require evidence of something in the future. I left without uttering a word, moving straight through the kitchen, passing through the door to the garage, flipping on the light. The spot where I stored that box was vacant. Only a shadowy outline remained where it had stood for 20 years since I'd moved it from our previous home. Everything else was intact: tools, garden equipment, decorations Linda refused to discard, despite us not having decorated in 5 years. However, the box containing my Bronze Star awarded during a firefight near Da Nang in 1971, along with my father's dog tags from Korea and letters I wrote home, filled with fear as a 20-year-old trying to sound brave for my mother, had vanished. 53 years of evidence that I had served, that I had been youthful at one point, that I was not just an elderly man whose wife had left me. I returned indoors. Ed was in the kitchen, having poured himself coffee. The coffee pot was already brewing upon my entrance. He must have started it while I was in the garage. That's Ed, always planning ahead. I mentioned that I needed to verify something. I retrieved my bank statements from the desk drawer in the spare bedroom, not having reviewed them for months. Linda handled the bills, always had. I drove trucks for 40 years. She managed the finances. That was our arrangement. I placed them on the kitchen table as Ed observed. 3 months ago, $80,000 was transferred from our joint savings account to an account I didn't recognize, with an account number ending in 7,743. 2 months ago, another $80,000 followed suit. Last month, another $80,000 was withdrawn, totaling $240,000. This money disappeared from our joint account to an unknown location. Ed murmured this as he read over my shoulder when I sold the trucking business. 3 years passed, I parted ways with my owner-operator business. 3 trucks, 2 additional drivers aside from me, 40 years of constructing something. I received $240,000 for it post-loan settlement. I envisioned a serene retirement, perhaps some travel. More frequent visits to the grandkids if Michelle ever reconciled with me. That money was meant to be our safety net, our old age provision. Ed inquired, "Where'd it go?" My hands trembled as I replied, "I don't know. These account numbers, I've never seen them before." Linda was in the living room engrossed in a home renovation show on TV. Through the wall, I could hear their discussions about granite countertops. I entered the living room with the bank statements in hand. She glanced up, noting my expression, and something in her eyes altered. It flattened, resembling a mask falling. "Where's the money, Linda?" "What money?" "The $240,000 from the truck sale. Where is it hidden?" She rose slowly. "It's in savings, as it has always been." I refuted, "No." I showed her the statements. "It isn't, it's been moved." 3 transactions of $80,000 into unknown accounts, accounts I've never used before and can't access. Accounts that aren't shared, accounts I don't have control over. "Ray, where is my Vietnam keepsake box?" Her face paled. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I have proof, Linda. You and Derek were seen putting it into his truck this afternoon while I was at Earl's playing poker." The deafening silence that followed was more potent than any shouting. She didn't offer an apology, didn't cry, didn't attempt to clarify. Instead, she stared at me with eyes of a stranger and stated, "You're too old, Ray." "What? You're too old. You've been too old for a decade." Her tone became icy now, clinical. "I can't carry on like this anymore." The nightly shuffle to the bathroom, your reading glasses scattered everywhere. Your habit of napping every afternoon, reminiscent of an aged dog. "I'm 66 years old, and I feel like I've been buried alive in this house with you." Each word felt like a blow. "Derek makes me feel vital. And yes, I moved the money. It's under my name now. You've squandered our home on insignificant matters. I'm ensuring our future, ours, our future." It felt like I was suffocating. "You and Derek. Derek suggests you reconsider your choices. Something less complex. You're not growing any younger. There are institutions, decent ones, for people of our age to move into." She looked surprised. "What? Leave my house immediately. This is as much my home as it is yours, Ray. I've resided here for 43 years. You can't simply depart." She gazed at me for a while. Then she gathered her handbag, moved towards the door, and departed. The door clicked closed behind her. The sound was barely audible, not even a slam. Ed remained in the kitchen. I could hear him placing his coffee mug on the counter, the clatter echoing through the silent house. "Ray," he called out. I didn't respond. I was studying the bank statements in my hand, the evidence of my wife's plan that had been unfolding for months. Not an error. Not a passionate affair spiraling out of control. A scheme to eliminate me. She returned on Wednesday with Derek. I was brewing coffee at the time. Every morning routine since retirement, the sound of a key turning would trigger my heartbeat before my mind caught up. I had been anticipating Linda's arrival, ready to explain any mistakes. But as the door opened, it wasn't Linda alone who stepped in. Derek, presumably 34 or 35 years old, entered behind her, as if this was his home. Dressed in a tight t-shirt boasting a fitness logo and expensive sneakers, probably costing more than my monthly truck payment, he looked around my living room and smirked, saying, "So, this is the place." He directed his words to Linda, ignoring my presence. Linda avoided meeting my eyes as Derek approached my recliner, the chair I'd occupied for 20 years, and took a seat. Casually placing his feet on the coffee table, he announced, "I need to talk, man to man." The audacity of his actions struck me like a blow. The youngster, seemingly insolent, barely older than me, is seated in my chair within my dwelling, with my spouse positioned behind him as if a protective sentinel. "Leave my seat," I demanded. "Here's the catch, Ray." He replied with my name, hinting at mockery. "We have been discussing future prospects, considering what benefits all parties. Frankly, your deliberations mean little to me. Leave my residence." Derek cast a glance towards Linda and then returned his gaze to me. "You own this property outright, without any mortgage? And there's the substantial sum from your trucking enterprise, $250,000. Quite a substantial reserve." My fists tightened. "That money has been transferred to accounts I can no longer control." "Yes," Linda informed me. "A wise decision. Because here's the crux of the matter. Elderly man, you are not in a state to manage your own matters effectively anymore. Linda suggests it might be prudent to streamline your life." I am not confused. "No," he smiled. "Then why didn't you notice your wife's discontent for over a year? Why didn't I spot the money shifting? Why did I only realize it was too late? Because I relied on her," I almost said. "Because after 43 years, one doesn't scrutinize bank statements like a detective. Because I believed the vows were meaningful. However, I didn't express any of that." Derek rose, strolled to my kitchen, casually opened my fridge as if it belonged to him, took one of my beers. He mentioned, popping the cap, "There are great facilities, nice assisted living homes." He continued, "You'd have your own room, help with medications, meals provided. Linda could sell this place, settle down somewhere comfortable, maybe near the gym." He winked at that last part. "Are you planning to put me in a home?" The words came out monotonous. "I aim for what benefits everyone. You get the care you require. Linda regains her life. Everyone benefits, except I don't need care. I'm 68, not 90. Derek shrugged casually. "Your daughter doesn't contact you, does she? Linda claims you two haven't spoken in years." "Your comment implies something about your discernment, Ray. It suggests perhaps you're not as trustworthy as you perceive yourself to be, Michelle. As for Michelle, a topic I seldom ponder on most days, you seem unaware of her feelings towards you. Rest assured, she has no intention of associating with you." He took a lengthy swig from my beer. "Here's the straightforward approach. We can either discuss this matter calmly, reach an equitable agreement through legal channels, or we can make it complicated. The easy route involves consulting a lawyer and devising a reasonable settlement. In that case, Linda keeps the house and finances while you move into a care facility. It's simple, clean, but difficult, similar to documenting your confusion, memory lapses, and inability to handle personal affairs. This process could involve court intervention, which tends to be messy." Eventually, Linda interjected, "Derek, maybe, it's all right, darling. Ray is intelligent. He comprehends the realities of the situation." I gazed at Linda intently, searching for any remnants of the woman I wed in 1982, the one who lovingly refurbished that oak table, chuckled at my lame jokes, and held my hand during my mother's funeral. Yet she avoided my gaze. A business card lies on the kitchen counter, Derek mentioned as he placed an empty beer bottle down. "It belongs to Linda's lawyer, Patterson. Call her, sort things out." As for Ray, he walked by me closely enough to catch a whiff of his pricey, youthful cologne. "Don't complicate matters unnecessarily. You're too old for such troubles." They departed together, just as they had in Ed's photograph. I remained in my living room, detecting the blend of his cologne with the scent of my 43 years, and noticed the business card on my kitchen counter. "Patterson and Associates, Family Law." I picked it up. The card seemed worn, creased, as if it had been kept in a wallet for quite some time. On its reverse, in Linda's handwriting, "First consultation, 11/15, November 15th, 3 weeks before she admitted to the affair, a month prior to her tearful return seeking another chance. She had planned this all along. I dialed the police. The dispatcher exhibited courtesy and proficiency, gathered my details, assured me help would arrive. The arriving officer appeared around 30, youthful with an air of sincerity. He listened attentively to the entire tale, including the affair, financial issues, Derek's threats, and the missing memorabilia box. He jotted down each detail in a small notebook. "Sir," he remarked upon completion, "has your wife ever physically threatened you?" "No, but has she denied you access to your home?" "No, she possesses a key, but are you in immediate danger?" "They aim to admit me into a facility. They're attempting to seize everything." Mr. Donovan, he closed his notebook. "This appears to be a contentious marital dispute. I comprehend, but these are matters of personal affairs. You will need to resolve this through divorce court, asset division, and so forth. We cannot interfere in domestic squabbles unless there's a danger present." She allegedly took $240,000 from the accounts. "Is her name on the account?" "It was jointly owned." "Then, legally speaking, sir, she is entitled to those funds. If you suspect any financial misconduct, seek legal advice." Unfortunately, he's gone now. His vehicle departed, and I watched as the taillights vanished down the street. I attempted to reach Michelle, but only reached her voicemail. "Michelle, dear, it's me. We haven't spoken in 6 years. I know you're still upset about the loan, your former spouse, but I could truly benefit from your help now. Please call me back." She didn't respond. At 2 a.m., with temperatures at 15 degrees, I sat on my porch, contemplating if Derek was correct. Perhaps I am too old to battle this, too old to restart, too old to matter. The house groaned behind me, settling in the cold. Over 4 decades of my life enclosed within those walls, and suddenly it felt like a museum, as though I were already deceased. This was merely a farewell gathering, waiting for everyone to depart so they could securely lock the doors. Ed's porch light shone across the way, consistently on, like a lighthouse. I remained seated until my fingers lost sensation, and I could no longer feel my feet. Then I ventured indoors alone, seeking answers about how a man defends himself when all mechanisms supposed to safeguard him deem him unworthy of protection. On Thursday morning, I dialed the financial advisor. His name was Trevor Nichols, certified financial planner, whose office was in the strip mall by the highway between the chain pharmacy and a sub shop. Mr. Donovan's voice was excessively cheerful for 9 a.m. "Good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" Regarding the $240,000 that was withdrawn from our joint account, I needed to know its whereabouts. A pause. "Ah, yes, those transfers. Mr. Donovan, we had discussed this back in August, didn't we? You desired to streamline your accounts and decrease complexity. You endorsed those modifications. I never did. Sir, I have the documentation right here. Your signature, 3 separate transfer authorizations. My hands became icy. I never signed anything." Donovan softened his tone, becoming cautious. "I recognize this may be perplexing. It's typical for financial discussions at your age to blur memories or cause uncertainty. That's why Linda attended all 3 meetings with you, ensuring clarity. Linda was present indeed, out of concern for you and your memory lapses she mentioned recently." After ending the call, I found myself in my kitchen, contemplating the phone, trying to recall August, questioning past conversations and unsigned documents that were never actually happening. Was I slipping into madness? Had I forgotten? No, I recalled August distinctly. It was when the air conditioner malfunctioned, prompting me to fix it myself due to frugality, spending 3 grueling days in a sweltering attic replacing parts and wires. I wasn't forgetting. They were deceiving me. But who would trust my account? On a whim, I ventured to my go-to diner for breakfast, craving a change from home and my own thoughts. Eddie's Diner, a familiar haunt since my 1982 relocation, boasts red vinyl booths, a black and white checkered floor, the unwavering aroma of bacon grease and burnt coffee. Upon entry, the chatter softened, not ceasing entirely, but subsiding like a radio's volume knob being turned down. Eyes briefly met mine before quickly returning to plates, cups, and papers. I settled into my customary seat without incident. Sharon, with her 40-year waitressing history etched on her face, arrived with the coffee pot. "Good morning, Ray," she murmured, avoiding eye contact. "Good morning." She filled my cup silently, departing without inquiring about my order. For 2 decades, I've ordered the same thing on Thursdays. Sharon knows this, but today she was eager to retreat from our usual banter while waiting for the coffee to settle. From behind, I could hear hushed conversations. It seems Sharon left her partner. The gym's personal trainer isn't fair to judge her. After all, age might not have affected her in a long time. My sister attests that Derek is a kind soul. As Sharon placed my eggs and coffee before me, I gripped the mug tightly, lost in thought. The coffee seemed to taste bitter, like guilt. I consumed half, left payment on the table, and departed as whispers trailed behind me. Upon returning home, I sat at the kitchen table, scrutinizing bank statements, pictures of Ed, a hotel receipt, Trevor Nichols' business card. It was all there, evidentiary material of sorts. Yet, what did it prove? My marriage was in trouble due to infidelity. The money transfers were suspicious. My collectibles had gone missing. She could argue they were gifts, misunderstandings. Each piece of evidence I possessed might be rationalized, discarded, or turned into proof of my confusion, paranoia, poor management. They'd meticulously set the trap. Pondered over Derek's remarks, I realized that easy meant surrendering, signing documents, relocating to a place where meals are served on trays, and being treated like a child. It signified waiting for the end, seated amongst other men who've been isolated. On the contrary, hard symbolized struggling, but against whom? The authorities refused help. My daughter remained silent. The town believed I was the source of the problem, an elderly man unable to keep his wife content, perhaps a culprit in this situation. At 2 a.m., I found myself back on the porch, unable to sleep, my mind haunted by that bronze star, its whereabouts unknown, earned during a firefight 53 years ago when I was young, reckless, and fortunate. It had been a part of me for half a century, yet now it seemed lost, perhaps in Derek's apartment as a trophy. I recalled my father, who worked until he was 81, as strong as an oak, as sharp as ever, passing away peacefully on his own terms at home. A man ought to depart with honor, not disintegrate bit by bit until only a name remains on an institution's roster. The chill seeped into my face, hands. It was 15 degrees. My breath fogged up. Perhaps Derek was correct. Maybe I had grown too old for this. Maybe. Ed's porch light flickered on. I watched as his door creaked open, revealing him in his robe, gazing over at my house from the gap between ours. "Ray," he called out, "it's 2 in the morning and 15 degrees. Either come over here or let me come over there, but I won't stand by and watch you perish on your own porch." "I can't return to bed, Ed. Have been watching you for 2 hours," I replied. "Marie used to claim I was too inquisitive for my own good," I added. "But someone needs to keep a vigil over you." "I'm fine," he retorted. "You're not." "Come on, I made coffee," he said. After another minute of hesitation, pride and fatigue clashing within me, I rose and crossed over to Ed's place. His kitchen was cozy, filled with the aroma of coffee and aged wood, offering a sense of security. Ray filled 2 cups, placing one before me. "Speak," he instructed. I divulged everything: the funds, the counselor, the threats, the police ignoring me, Michelle's silence, the gossip at the diner. It all tumbled out as our coffee grew cold. Upon my conclusion, Ed remained quiet for quite some time. "I know a lawyer," he eventually said. "Ray, I can't afford one." Ed's tone hardened. 3 years ago, my son attempted to have me declared incompetent, aimed to put me in a facility, sell my house, stated that I couldn't handle things anymore, claimed I was confused and forgetful. The same tactics you described. I gaped at him, unaware. But I had a lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, who specializes in elder law, financial abuse. She dismantled my son in court, demonstrated my mental acuity, showed the judge his true intentions. What followed? The case was dismissed. My son departed from town, and we've not had contact since. Ed sipped his coffee. "Patricia is familiar with this game, Ray." She's familiar with the situation and emerges victorious. I won't. The following day, we were heading to her workplace in your car. There'll be no disagreements. I can't afford it. You will convey what you told me, and she will inform you of the next steps. For the first time in a week, a faint glimmer of optimism stirred within me. Tiny, delicate, but present. All right, I replied. Ed acknowledged with a nod. Now, finish your coffee and go home. Rest well. Tomorrow, we'll stand our ground. I retraced my steps through our yards under the cover of darkness, the cold not as harsh as before. Ed's porch light remained lit behind me, beacon in the night, and perhaps, just perhaps, I was no longer fighting alone. The next morning, Ed drove. Patricia Chen's office was a converted house on the outskirts of town, its white clapboard exterior adorned with black shutters and a sign that read, Chen and Associates, Elder Law. The interior held an aroma of lemon furniture polish and old books, walls adorned with legal volumes likely more valuable than my truck. Patricia, around 50 years old, had piercing eyes hidden behind wire-framed glasses and tied her hair back in a professional bun. Her firm handshake suggested she was not one for softness. Mr. Donovan, Edward has given me some details. Fill me in on the rest, I recounted, divulging everything from the affair to the threats, false paper signings, hotel receipts, stolen memorabilia, and Linda's lawyer card, dated before her confession. She listened attentively without interruption, scribbling notes in a handwriting that was illegible. Upon conclusion, she leaned back, viewing me over the wire-framed lenses. Mr. Donovan, she stated, you are being systematically fleeced, and whoever is orchestrating this is following a script I've seen more than 24 times, a script. They select an older individual, usually a man, she continued. They sever connections with family. You mentioned your estrangement from your daughter. They construct a narrative of incompetence, forgetfulness, confusion, and an inability to manage affairs. Transfer assets into inaccessible accounts. Suggest institutional care as a solution. Make it clean, legal, and by the time the victim recognizes the situation, everything will be gone. My throat constricted. Can you prevent this? Not only can I stop it, but I can undo it. She moved the legal pad closer. Here's our plan. Emergency filing on Monday for an asset freeze. A restraining order against Derek for his threats. Criminal referral for the theft of your military memorabilia, which is federal property, carries significant weight, and I will request a competency evaluation by an independent doctor, not the one they might present. Will it work? Mr. Donovan, I've done this before. The law disapproves of elder abuse, and that's exactly what this is. We're going to make things challenging for everyone involved. She smiled, but her smile was cold, not warm. It was the smile of someone who took pleasure in their work. What are your thoughts on confrontation? I'm unsure about the meaning. These situations become clearer when the public is informed. Changing "old man can't manage" to "old man being exploited" makes a big difference. Are you ready to speak out publicly? Make this known. Before I could respond, my phone rang Michelle. I squinted at the screen, wondering if it was a dream. Take it, Patricia advised. We'll wait. I moved into the hallway. Michelle? Dad. Her voice was tense, furious. What on earth is going on? I had just spoken to Uncle Jim. He claims Mom is telling people that you have memory issues, and she is worried about you. That's Uncle Jim, Linda's brother. Naturally, she would call him. Michelle, it isn't me who is confused. Your mother is having an affair. She has moved money from our accounts. This man, Derek, they are attempting to. I am on my way from Tulsa. I will arrive in 4 hours. Michelle, you don't have to wait 4 hours, Dad. Don't do anything rash before I get there. She ended the call. She disconnected. Standing in the hallway, phone clutched tight, I felt a change. Michelle was approaching. My daughter, who hadn't spoken to me for 6 years, who swore she'd never contact me again after my refusal to lend money to her ex-husband's financial troubles. She was returning. In Patricia's office, Ed was finalizing documents. Hire her, he said without glancing at me. Don't protest. He reminded me of Marie, who I had lacked during my son's attempt to place me in a home. I fought alone then. You won't be alone this time, he implied. Ed. Ray. Ed looked up at me then. That's what neighbors do. Patricia slid papers across her desk. Read these tonight and have them signed by Monday morning for our 9 a.m. filing. She leaned forward. They will challenge us fiercely, she warned. This may get ugly before it gets better. Are you prepared for that? I recalled Derek's feet on my coffee table, Linda's cold glares, the gossip in the diner, the unreachable bronze star. Yes, I affirmed, I am ready. When Michelle's car parked in my driveway that afternoon, I was on the porch. The vehicle sported Colorado plates and seemed to veer slightly as it pulled in, hinting at alignment issues. She stepped out, reminding me of her mother 3 decades ago. Identical jawline, same dark hair, similar posture, standing tall, poised for a confrontation. Dad, daughter. We stood there, awkwardly silent for a bit. The silence of the past 6 years serving as an invisible barrier between us. Then she spoke up. Uncle Jim contacted me, said Mom is concerned about your memory lapses, paranoia. She folded her arms, so I reached out to Mom, asking what was happening. What did she say? That you were making baseless accusations, that she was anxious for your well-being, that she had been in discussions with lawyers about potential solutions. Michelle's jaw tightened. She claimed you were a threat to yourself, suggested it might be prudent to seek professional care. The words hung heavy in the cold air. Do you believe her? I asked. Michelle stared at me for a prolonged moment. She scrutinized my face. You overlooked our wedding anniversary, which Mom claimed shattered her heart. Our anniversary is on September 12th, a fact you're well aware of, as I was the flower girl. She sighed disapprovingly. She told me it was October 15th and that you had forgotten. However, I recall September 12th distinctly because it was 3 days after my birthday, and I was upset about the close scheduling. A chill filled my core. Linda was fabricating facts to portray me as forgetful, weaving a tale to undermine my capabilities. Michelle whispered softly, she's really doing this. She's truly trying to make me appear incompetent. Indeed. Why? There's a man, Derek, a 34-year-old personal trainer. They've been seeing each other for months. An amount of $240,000 has been transferred from our joint accounts. They aim to institutionalize me so they can. Son of a gun. Michelle's voice lost its tone. Do you have evidence? I collected photos, bank statements, hotel receipts, and every piece of proof. Good. She retrieved her bag from the car. Where can I connect my laptop? Michelle, you don't need to join in her defensive stance, reminded me of your mother. It was the old Linda I married, the one who stood firm on significant issues. 6 years ago, you warned me about my husband being a drain, that he would leave me with nothing. You refused to lend us money, saying I had to learn the lesson myself. Your eyes flashed then, just like Dad's used to. You were correct, and I regretted your words. But you were right. I apologize. Don't say anything. She halted me with a gesture. I'm not here because we're reconciled. We're not. But I've come because Mom is trying to do to you what Brian did to me, and I won't let her get away with it. She walked into the house, and for the first time in a week, I dared to hope maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't lose everything. Saturday morning, Derek came to my door once more. This time, he wasn't cheerful. We need to talk, Ray. He pushed past me without giving me a chance to halt him. Linda trailed behind without meeting my gaze. Leave my home. I spoke with Trevor Nichols yesterday. He claimed you called, behaving aggressively regarding account transfers. Derek seemingly strolled into my living room as if welcome. That's not a great impression, man. Arguments with your financial advisor, suspicions about documents you personally signed. Linda appears concerned about your well-being. I didn't sign any papers. Seems there's an issue. Derek turned to face me. You don't recall signing them. You don't remember the meetings. You don't recall authorizing the transfers. That sounds like early signs of dementia, Ray. I am not experiencing any decline. By the way, when is your anniversary? Derek glanced at Linda. Sweetheart, isn't it October 15th? Linda murmured softly. It has always been October 15th. I stood dumbfounded as she spoke. We got married on September 12th, 1982, Church Street Methodist, Pastor Williams officiated. Your sister Carol was the matron of honor. My brother Tom served as best man. Michelle, 7 years old, wore a pink dress as the flower girl. You created this situation. Linda remained stoic. He's mistaken the dates, mixed up events. Linda, we got married in September. This is precisely what I'm discussing. Derek's tone grew stern. You are confused, Ray. You are muddling memories, and things will only become more complex. I am not puzzled about you taking from me. Taking, Derek chuckled. Linda transferred her own funds to her own accounts. That's not theft. That's a woman safeguarding her resources from a husband who can no longer manage his finances effectively. My money for my ventures. Community property, as you well know. We've been married 43 years. By law, half of everything belongs to her. She is merely ensuring its safety. I wish to mention Ed's photographs and the bronze star you pilfered, but Patricia's words resonated in my mind. Don't reveal your hand until Monday. Therefore, I remained silent and endured. Derek advanced. Once more, I caught a whiff of his cologne. Young, affordable, and inappropriate in my home. Linda has filed documents, she stated, discussing matters with physicians, obtaining assessments, constructing an argument for assistance that is genuine, not merely ensuring medication compliance and fire safety. I don't use medications. Perhaps you should consider them. He smiled then, but it was more hideous than a sneer. Understand, Ray, I empathize. Aging is terrifying. Losing autonomy is terrifying. But this doesn't have to turn into a battle. You can simplify this situation. Sign the documents drafted by Linda's attorney, consent to an evaluation, relocate to a comfortable facility where care is provided, or he shrugged. We can handle this the difficult way. Court proceedings, medical professionals testifying, your daughter detailing in front of a judge why she hasn't spoken to you in 6 years. The entire town observing as we prove you are no longer capable of self-care. My hands were trembling, not out of fear, but with unadulterated anger at this young man, barely my contemporary, intimidating me in my own home, with my wife standing silently behind him like a mute observer to my downfall. Monday, Derek said. Linda's lawyer will contact you. Show some sense, Ray, exhibit wisdom. They departed. I remained in my living room trembling as their vehicle drove off. It was then that I noticed Derek's gym bag, left by the door. Inside, I found protein shakes, a towel, his wallet untouched, and beneath it all, concealed within the towel, my bronze star, the medal I believed had been lost forever in 1971. He had brought it with him, bringing it into my house as if it were a trophy. I sat on my floor clutching that medal, and something within me fractured, not shattered, but like ice cracking on a river in spring, like something frozen finally giving way. They assumed I was too old, too bewildered, too feeble to retaliate. They erred. I phoned Patricia. This is Ray Donovan. On Monday, when you submit those documents, make it painful. Mr. Donovan, Derek stole my bronze star, a federal asset. I've recovered it now, evidence of his theft, and I demand his arrest. I want everyone to know what they attempted. A brief pause. Christmas is the day after today, on Sunday. Are you and Linda intending to go to church? We usually do, same pew for 43 years. I could hear her happiness in her voice. What are your thoughts about your court case occurring in front of your entire community, Mr. Donovan? What's on your mind? I'm considering filing everything Sunday morning, early, before church, a restraining order, asset freeze, criminal complaint. I'm also thinking the sheriff's deputies could serve Derek with these during or after the service, in full view of everyone. My heart was racing. That's public. Everyone will know. People already have their versions, Mr. Donovan. It's time they heard yours, unless you prefer to keep it private. I contemplated the whispers at the diner, Linda's fabrications about our anniversary, Derek's feet on my table. No, I declared, I'm tired of being silent. Good, I'll call the sheriff. We leave tomorrow. I hung up and sat there, clutching my bronze star, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not hope, not yet, but fight that was enough. On the crisp, Clear Sunday morning of Christmas Day, the sky bore its characteristic winter blue hue, a sight that pierced one's eyes. I donned my 20-year-old gray Sunday coat, which I had worn to church for 2 decades, and met Ed and Michelle on my porch at 9 o'clock or 9:30. "Are you ready for this, Michelle?" she queried, her phone already recording. Once begun, there was no turning back. Ed handed me a coffee and thermos. "Drink," he said. "You look terrible." I had not slept. Instead, I spent the night clutching my bronze star, contemplating the events to unfold. We journeyed in Ed's truck to Church Street Methodist, the same church I've attended since 1982, the same parking lot where Michelle learned to ride a bike, and the same steps that Linda and I had our wedding photos taken on 43 years prior. The parking lot was already half full. As always, Christmas service attracted a crowd. Those who didn't come any other Sunday would appear for Christmas and Easter like checking a box with God. We entered side by side, me, Ed, Michelle, forming a group. Already seated was Linda, in the third pew from the rear on the left. Our usual spot for 43 Sundays, yet she wasn't alone. Derek occupied the seat behind her, his hand resting on the back of the pew, his button-down shirt pristine, his hair slicked back, giving the impression of a gentleman escorting his girlfriend to church on Christmas Day. The wrath that surged through me was simultaneously scalding and freezing. Ed's fingers clutched my elbow. "Calm down. Let them create their own misery." We settled 3 rows behind them. I could make out the back of Linda's head, her hair styled elegantly. Observed Derek lean over and murmur to her, saw her respond with a smile. The service commenced. Pastor Jim, who had led this church for 15 years, greeted everyone, spoke about the birth of Christ, about fresh starts, about forgiveness and mercy. I scarcely listened. All I could focus on was the back of Derek's head. In my mind, I kept repeating, "He stole, threatened, attempted to eliminate me. Yet here he is on Christmas morning acting like the victor." Michelle's hand found mine, gripped tight. "Wait," she murmured. The service seemed endless. Hymns I had sung 1,000 times, scripture readings I knew by heart, communion I didn't partake in due to my trembling hands holding the cup. Once it ended, Pastor Jim gave his blessing. People started rising, gathering coats, preparing for departure. Derek and Linda Rose began walking up the aisle towards the exit. It was then I noticed them. 2 sheriff's deputies were stationed in the vestibule, waiting. Derek recognized them too, hesitated. Deputy Martinez, someone I've known since he was a boy, who used to mow my lawn for $5, stepped forward. "Derek Paulson, yes, a restraining order has been issued this morning by Judge Blackwell, which I now have to serve you." He handed over the documents. "An asset freeze has been imposed on all accounts linked to Linda Donovan due to an ongoing investigation of financial misconduct." The church fell silent as everyone had been exiting and discussing Christmas plans, now standing still and watching. Linda's face paled while Derek's reddened. "This is unjust. I haven't done anything wrong. Additionally, there's a charge for the theft of federal property, specifically a Bronze Star medal that belonged to Mr. Donovan." Martinez spoke in a professional tone, but his underlying anger was clear. "We found it at your residence yesterday evening. However, I didn't steal anything. It appears you left your gym bag at Mr. Donovan's residence yesterday with the Bronze Star wrapped inside your towel." At this point, I moved forward. Ed tried to hold me back, but I broke free and approached Derek, standing close enough to read his panic. "I'm not too old to defend what belongs to me," I said. Martinez's voice was soft but clear in the quiet church. Derek's lips parted and closed. The usual smirk and swagger were absent. "Sir," Martinez said to you, "I regret to inform you that we need your presence. We have inquiries regarding the theft and inappropriate conduct toward Mr. Donovan." I didn't threaten him. I merely suggested he might benefit from a care facility, his house should be sold, and he was incapable of managing his affairs himself. Martinez read from his notes, corroborated by Linda Donovan on Wednesday at his residence. These statements indicate attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Derek turned to Linda, but she was retreating, taking small steps as if trying to blend into the crowd. "Ma'am," Sedis, the second deputy said, "we will also require a statement from you." Linda shook visibly. "I don't understand what he's saying," she replied. Derek was merely attempting to aid, Linda claimed. Ray has been rather confused lately. Our anniversary is on September 12th, Linda reminded everyone. 12th of September, 1982. You donned your mother's veil. Our reception was held at the VFW Hall. Earl Hawkins became intoxicated and serenaded Stand By Your Man at 2 a.m. Someone in the audience chuckled, uneasy. Ray, you were perplexed. Michelle, aged 7, wore a pink dress. You crafted it yourself, spending 3 nights to complete it. She bore daisies. Michelle advanced, displaying her phone. I've been recording everything, Mom. Each lie about Dad's memory, every bank transaction, every instance when Derek threatened him. It's all here. She scanned the crowd. My father isn't confused. He's being plundered by his own wife and her boyfriend, and they've been deceiving everyone into believing he's losing his mind to conceal their actions. The room fell silent. I recognized faces from the church auxiliary, Eddie from the diner, Sharon the waitress, Tom and Judy Brennan from 3 streets over, people I'd known for 4 decades, watching this unfold. Nora abruptly declared, "That's elder abuse," slicing through the silence. The same deception they used against my uncle in Wichita was attempted, she claimed. At the gym, Derek boasted to someone, a younger voice echoed. He bragged about being financially secure and manipulating older individuals if you knew how. Derek's face paled, and Martinez guided him away. "Sir, you must come with us now," he said. "You haven't committed any illegal acts," Paulson countered. "Stealing federal property is a felony," Martinez replied. "Trying to swindle a veteran of his assets is a felony. Threatening a senior citizen is a felony. Shall I continue?" They arrested him in handcuffs, right there, on Christmas morning, in full view of the entire church. Linda tried to pursue, but 3 women from the church auxiliary blocked her path, not aggressively, but forcefully with their bodies and their silent disapproval. She looked around, seeing the faces staring at her, feeling the disgust. "Ray," she whispered softly, her tone adolescent. "Ray, let's discuss this, find a resolution. You led our daughter to believe I had forgotten our anniversary. You misinformed Trevor Nichols, implying I was befuddled. You misrepresented me to the entire town, suggesting I was losing my faculties. I approached you. On that day, you remained passive as Derek threatened to institutionalize me, plundered from me, and endeavored to appropriate all I had constructed. I was petrified. But Linda, I didn't deceive. I didn't purloin. I didn't attempt to erase you." Pastor Jim eventually stirred, ultimately placing his hand on my shoulder. "Ray, I was unaware. If I had known, nobody else knew," I admitted. "That was the objective. Portray me as mad, manipulate funds, remove me, a straightforward scheme, except I wasn't as addled as they assumed." Linda brushed past the auxiliary women and fled, rushing out the door, into the parking lot, into her vehicle. I observed her depart, 4 decades of matrimony, vanishing in a haze of exhaust on Christmas morning. The church remained hushed. Then Ed's hand settled on my other shoulder. Michelle grasped my arm, softly saying, "You did well, Dad." I wasn't convinced by that statement. It didn't feel right. It seemed like I had just destroyed my entire life in front of everyone who knew me. But when I scanned the room, I saw something unexpected. People weren't gazing at me with pity anymore. They were looking at me with admiration. Nora Patterson approached first. "Ray Donovan, drop by your house tomorrow. I'm cooking a turkey that no one will eat alone, and I want to hear the whole story." Tom Brennan followed suit. "If you need anything, Ray, I truly mean it, anything at all." One by one, those who had whispered about me in the diner, who had believed Linda's lies, who thought I was merely a confused old man, approached me, shook my hand, apologized, and offered assistance. By the time we reached Ed's truck, my phone was vibrating with messages. "Heard it went well," from Patricia Chin. "Derek is being processed now. An emergency hearing scheduled for Tuesday. We're going to get everything back, Mr. Donovan." In the passenger seat, my hands trembling with remnants of adrenaline, I glanced at Michelle seated behind me. "Thank you," I murmured, "for coming, for having faith in me. Yes, about Brian, she whispered. About every bit of it. I should have heeded your advice 6 years ago, should have contacted you when you were in need. Her eyes brimmed with tears. I'm sorry, Father. No need to apologize. You're here now, and that's what truly matters. Ed ignited the truck. A diner? I'll treat breakfast. After all, a man who reclaimed his life on Christmas morning deserves some eggs, I reasoned. I cast my gaze out of the window at the church, at the groups still standing there, chattering, likely discussing me. Yet, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel ashamed. I was still standing, and that was enough. Fast forward to 3 months later, I stood motionless in my living room, fixed on an empty wall. March had arrived with warmth, snow melting, gutters running, that peculiar aroma of earth resurfacing after a long winter. From the window, I observed Ed on his porch, his usual checkered thermos in hand, following his 6:15 ritual. The house was mainly filled with boxes piled up in every room, the remnants of a lifetime categorized as valuable keepsakes or discarded items. The court acted swiftly, a testament to Patricia Chen's expeditious efforts. By New Year's, my accounts were unfrozen, and the $240,000 was once again under my control. Derek accepted a plea deal, 18 months for the Bronze Star heist, 3 years of probation, and restitution for his inescapable financial exploitation. He departed the town as soon as he was released on bail. Rumors suggested he was now in Arizona, coaching soccer moms and maintaining a low profile. Linda finalized the divorce papers in February without contest, despite her attorney's attempt to claim half the assets. However, Patricia had evidence of everything: the meticulous planning, false claims about my ability, and her complicity in Derek's threats. Judge Blackwell was unyielding in his judgment. Linda retained her car, personal items, and the burden of guilt. She now resides with her sister, Carol, in Wichita. Carol phoned me, expressing remorse for trusting Linda's tales, mentioning her sister wasn't in good shape. I opted against seeking further information. The house was sold within 3 days to a youthful couple, their first purchase. They were ecstatic about the spacious yard and sturdy structure. I included the refurbished oak table, which Linda had been particularly fond of since 1985. Their reaction was one of delight. I chose not to disclose its backstory to them. I've acquired a modest dwelling in Tulsa, a 2-bedroom apartment within a complex close to Michelle's house. It's nothing luxurious, but it offers a balcony for my morning coffee and is convenient for the grandkids without the lengthy drive. Ed is also relocating, securing a place in the same complex on a lower floor. Oklahoma is milder than these winters, he remarked upon informing me, but we were both aware of the underlying truth. We would endure something together, and that creates a bond. Each Sunday, Michelle visits, accompanied by her children, Emma, aged 9, and Jacob, 6. They address me affectionately as Grandpa, a practice that seems uninterrupted throughout their lives. Despite a 6-year absence, I wasn't erased from their world. Last week, Emma sketched me a picture. 3 figures beneath a tree, those are you, me, and Jacob, she clarified, pointing to each figure. Mom and Ed are here too, she added. I've placed it on my refrigerator with an Oklahoma-shaped magnet. Now, standing in my empty living room, I clutched my bronze star. The wall where it had hung for 20 years was vacant, a pristine expanse marking the spot where the paint appeared fresher and untouched by time. I'd secured this medal 54 years ago, carried it through 5 decades, lost it, retrieved it, and now I was taking it to a different wall in a new location. Some things aren't tied to homes. They belong to the man who earned them. I carefully wrapped it in newspaper and placed it in a box labeled important items. My phone vibrated. 43 years ago, this house was first fortified, and now it's time to leave. Every creaky floorboard, crack in the plaster, and echo of memory, good or bad, has become a part of these walls. Linda and I crafted a life here, raised Michelle here, celebrated holidays, endured hardships, aged together until we didn't. Yes, I replied to Michelle's text, I am ready. Ed's truck arrived in the driveway, followed by Michelle's sedan with kids waving from the back seat. With the last box containing my bronze star, my father's dog tags, letters from Vietnam in hand, I stepped out, locked the door behind me, and handed the keys to the realtor on the porch. Good fortune with the new owners, I said. Thank you, Mr. Donovan. I understand about your past, what you have been through. Just wanted to express, it's good that you fought back. I merely nodded, unwilling to speak. Michelle stood by her car, watching me. Are you all right, Dad? Yes, my dear girl, I am fine. We traveled southward in a group, Ed's pickup leading the way, me seated beside him, Michelle behind with the grandchildren. After 2 hours on the highway, I recognized I had been humming without knowing it. Couldn't recall the title of the song. It was an old melody from the radio during my youth, when life seemed less complex. Or perhaps it only appeared that way because I was unaware then. You appear to be in a good mood, Ed remarked. Yes, I am, I responded. I had been humming for 20 miles. I gazed outside and noticed spring's presence everywhere. Fields growing greener, trees blooming, livestock and pastures lifting their heads as we passed by. So it seems, I agreed. Ed cast a sidelong glance. Any regrets? The question made me pause. About Linda, about the marriage, about the 43 years that concluded in deception, in a courtroom, on Christmas morning with handcuffs, yes, I admitted honestly, but not about standing up for myself. My only regret is not seeing it sooner. It's not possible to foresee everything, Ray. That's life. No, it isn't. For some time, we continued in peaceful quietness. Behind us, Michelle's vehicle was visible. Children likely bickering over something in the back seat, typical of kids. My phone vibrated. Message from Patricia Chen. Last documents submitted. Legally divorced and financially self-sufficient. Congratulations, Mr. Donovan. You fought tirelessly and prevailed, won. It didn't feel like a victory, more like enduring. But perhaps survival was the same thing in essence. What are your thoughts? Ed asked. Contemplating my father. He worked until he was 81, passing peacefully at home on his own terms. I thought that would be my fate too, with honor. You did, Ray. Perhaps not as planned, but you preserved your dignity. Despite losing everything else, you didn't lose yourself. You remain Ray Donovan, still the man who received the Bronze Star. After 4 decades of driving trucks and cultivating a business, and always being a father and a grandfather, that remained unchanged. When I gazed at him, I pondered over when he acquired such wisdom. It was when my son attempted to place him in a care facility, and I had to discern between what's important and what's not. He grinned, acknowledging it took some time, but he eventually figured it out. The Oklahoma border loomed ahead, its sign greeting us to the state. At 68, Ed declared it a new beginning, better late than never. As we traversed the state line, I reflected on fresh starts and old conclusions, and the peculiar route that had led me here. Linda contended I was too old, stating I was already deceased, merely awaiting formal confirmation. However, seated in that truck, en route to a new apartment and Sunday dinners with my daughter and an unexpected second chance, I didn't feel lifeless. Instead, it felt as though I had been holding my breath for 43 years and finally relearned how to exhale. We arrived at the apartment complex at noon. The sun was pleasant, trees blooming as Emma and Jacob sprinted towards me before I could exit the truck. Grandpa, can we help unpack? Yes, child. Michelle gave me a glance above their heads. Mouthed, you all right? I affirmed with a nod, since I was. Not exuberant, nor dancing in the streets or reveling in the remains of my marriage, but fine, stable, still standing, and at times, that's all the victory one needs. The first evening, I placed the Bronze Star on the fresh wall, prior to the couch being set or the dishes unpacked, before anything else. I hung that emblem, new location, old nail, yet it reflected the evening light as it always had gold, ribbon, and 54 years of carrying it with me. The apartment wasn't exceptional, consisting of a living room, 2 bedrooms, a balcony overlooking a parking lot. Nothing like the residence I inhabited for 43 years, but it was mine. Clear ownership, no spirits, no one to remind me I was too old to dictate my destiny. 20-year-old coffee pot in hand, I sat on an unchanged folding chair on the balcony, a spring evening in Oklahoma as Ed had foretold. No snow to clear tomorrow, no morning freeze on my driveway. Inside, I heard Ed shifting boxes and rearranging furniture robust, living sounds. From below, children's laughter echoed, likely Emma and Jacob exhausted from their unpacking help for Grandpa's new nearby home. I savored my coffee, contemplating what I would explain to them someday when they were old enough. When they asked about Grandma's absence, the changes that winter brought when they were still little, I'd reveal to them the truth, explaining that people unveil their true selves occasionally, and dignity is something one chooses to relinquish rather than having it taken. I'd convey that aging doesn't equate to surrender, for surrender is a choice. I'd inform them that their grandfather opted to battle, not due to courage or strength, but because at the age of 68, following 43 years of marriage and a lifetime of labor, he discerned the disparity between what he could endure losing and what he couldn't. You might seize a man's dwelling, his wealth, his spouse, his history, his sense of security in the world, but you cannot pilfer what he harbors within, the aspects that define him when everything else is stripped bare. I discovered this truth painfully, during an unending December, in a church on Christmas morning, in the decision to rise when all voices suggested sitting down. It took me 68 years amidst a harsh winter to learn it. However, some lessons are worth the expense. The coffee grew cold in my grasp as I remained seated. The sun sank past structures nearby. Lamps flickered on in windows surrounding me, revealing lives filled with tales and individuals making their way through. My phone vibrated, displaying a text from Michelle. Her question, "Will you prepare pancakes this coming Saturday morning like you once did?" A smile tugged at my lips as I typed out my response. Yes. A bronze star on the wall glimmered behind me, grasping the final rays of light. Unmoved, it remained mine. The realization struck that I was humming once more, a tune from an era when the world felt new, and I hadn't yet learned the extent of my survival skills. It struck me then, starting over at 68, one grasps the importance of things. Yet, ironically, they cease to hold significance. I drained the last of my coffee, rose from the fold-up chair, and stepped inside. Tomorrow, Ed and I would determine the closest diner in our new surroundings. We'd find a fresh breakfast spot, a new booth, and establish a revised routine. Michelle and her children would visit. We'd prepare pancakes together, forging new Saturday morning traditions to supplant the old ones. Over time, our apartment would lose its transient feel, transforming into a place that felt like home. I'd continue waking up, persevering, carrying on as Ray Donovan. Not the man Linda perceived me to be, not the man Derek aimed to obliterate, but the man who had been there all along. It appears he was more resilient than anyone realized. Our story has just reached a cliffhanger. But don't be upset, the next story is coming right up. 5:47 am on Thanksgiving Eve, frost coating the tractor seat. I donned my work gloves, but the cold still pierced through to the bone. The 1957 John Deere spluttered twice before the diesel ignited, releasing black smoke into the frozen air. Crows cawed from the fence line. Wood smoke rose from the chimney where Linda had lit the stove. My phone vibrated. A day of shopping with the girls, returning late. Don't stay up. I contemplated that message, shopping, on Thanksgiving Eve. Opening Find My Phone, I merely wanted to ensure the roads weren't icy where she was going. The blue dot sat firmly above Webb Realty and Development. 3 hours elapsed. Not a mall, nowhere near. A chill ran through my body, unrelated to November. I drove back home. Her car rested in the driveway. She hadn't departed yet. "How was shopping?" I inquired upon entering. She flinched, swiftly closed her laptop. Where?" I indicated my phone. A business card from Webb Realty fell, revealing Curtis Webb, a real estate developer. An orange survey stake on our fence line was visible through the kitchen window. She picked up her purse, indicating we needed to discuss something, but not here. I suggested his office, but she remained silent and evasive, looking away from me. The tractor's idling sound echoed from outside, a familiar diesel rumble that had been part of my life for 43 years. I urged her to sit down. "When?" she asked. "Sit," I replied. She reluctantly sat in the kitchen chair, her hands fidgeting nervously. I remained standing, maintaining a calm tone. A man doesn't shout when his world is crumbling. He becomes calm. How long have you known about this? I inquired. She hesitated before answering. For how long have you been seeing him? She glanced at the table. It's been about 2 or 3 months. 3 months. Autumn harvest. All those times she claimed to be visiting her sister, shopping, doctor appointments. I had believed every word. What is he offering you? He's not. She paused, then resumed. He presented me with possibilities, choices we could make. Choices. How? Our farm is valued at $3.2 million. Don't you understand that? We could sell, retire to someplace warm like Florida or Arizona. No more winters, no more. She gestured towards the window at the frozen fields beyond. No more of this. The coffee maker hissed behind me, completing its brewing cycle. Linda had always said it before I even woke up. It had done so for 45 years. The scent filled the kitchen. Bitter, powerful, familiar. This is our home, I said. This is 4 walls and a mortgage we settled decades ago. Her voice faltered. This is you, leaving at dawn and returning after dark, reeking of diesel and hay. Day after day, I sit here solitary, gazing at the same road, anticipating someone who isn't you driving on it. Leaning back, the chair groans under my weight, and I remark, you never explicitly stated. But you have been voicing it for years, you just haven't been heard. Perhaps that's the truth. Maybe I clung so tightly to this place that I neglected to hold on to you. However, what you did cannot be undone or justified. I then bring up the survey stakes along the fence, assuming they belong to Mitcham's crew marking his property. Your countenance pales. But these aren't, I query. They're marking ours, you retort. I walk over to the window and see 3 orange flags standing out against the white frost. From here, they are clear as day. Yet, I never consented to anything. You echo my words, your voice escalating. You never discuss our future. You never do. Standing up, you mirror my action. You're content with maintaining the status quo, acting as if we can cultivate this land indefinitely, just like it was 1948. My grandfather tilled this soil with a mule and a plow. Your grandfather passed away 3 decades ago. The words lingered, both factual and harsh. Suddenly, Tommy called. My grandson, 8 years old, flashing a gap-toothed grin. I responded, I'll be there for Thanksgiving tomorrow, kid. Maybe I can drive the tractor again if your mom agrees. See you soon. Linda watched me, her face reflecting a trace of remorse. I won't miss it, I said. What did you tell him? She retorted. We just talked. Over 3 months of discussions. How, what agreements do we have regarding our finances, the property deed, and so on? I hesitated, a chill settling within me. Linda, what did you sign? Nothing. What document did you put your name on? She avoided my gaze. He claimed he required something to exhibit to potential buyers, to demonstrate our commitment to selling, so I signed a letter of intent. It was merely a statement expressing our interest. Us. I placed the card down. You keep using we, but I didn't sign anything. I didn't consult him. I didn't approve of any of this. Because you'd never agree. You'd rather perish in that barn than acknowledge it's time to relinquish control. This property isn't for sale. It's not just your decision anymore. Her face flushed now, tears beginning to form. I've spent 45 years with you, 45 winters on this frigid hill. I deserve a role in what follows. The tractor outside fell silent. Perhaps it ran out of fuel or simply ceased functioning on its own. The quiet descended. Linda retrieved her coat from the hook by the door. I'm heading to Betty's. She departed after saying she would converse when she had composed herself. The door thundered shut, rattling the dishware in the cupboard. I remained stationary in the silent kitchen, wafts of smoke from the stove mingling with coffee aroma, and gazed at the orange survey stakes on my boundary. Not belonging to Mitcham, but mine. I failed to rest, instead staying rooted at the kitchen table until daybreak, observing those orange stakes via the window. As dawn approached, I brewed fresh coffee and contacted First National Bank. Mr. Brennan, the receptionist replied, sounding taken aback. We didn't anticipate your arrival today. Need to discuss refinancing my equipment loan with Teague. A brief pause followed. Let me verify his schedule. 17 minutes elapsed, and I found myself in Dale Teague's office. The overhead lights buzzed, bathing the room in cold white light. Synthetic wood paneling adorned the walls. Stale coffee sent from the pot in the corner, likely untouched since yesterday. Teague rearranged documents on his desk, avoiding eye contact. Regarding us, I began. Equipment loan, considering an upgrade for the baler perhaps. How about it? He paused, opening my account on the computer. Before we delve into new financing, I must inquire about a different issue. What other issue? His gaze flickered towards his office door with glass walls. The tellers were visible along with customers queuing. He lowered his voice regardless. The matter Mrs. Brennan brought up during our meetings. My heart constricted. What did she discuss? More keyboard clicks. He adjusted the monitor so I couldn't see it. She had come in 3 times over the past 2 months, with the most recent visit on Monday, 2 days before. Monday, when she claimed to be shopping for Thanksgiving dinner. What was her purpose? Teague handed me a folder from his desk drawer, pushing it across the table. She sought guidance on liquidation methods, questioned the farm's value, and sought clarity on the selling process for agricultural property. He cleared his throat, and I provided her with general information. I opened the folder containing the property assessment, market analysis, and comparable sales in the county, all neatly printed and official, bearing the First National Bank letterhead. It was stated that Linda had said $3.2 million. These documents confirmed the figure. She asked about additional details, such as mortgage payoff status and account balances, wanting a clear financial standing. You responded, "How, your wife shares joint accounts with you." I wondered if I should have responded differently, but he stopped talking. I closed the folder, noticing the slick, expensive feel of the paper, similar to Curtis Webb's business card. Who else has she consulted besides you? I'm uncertain, but he seemed hesitant. Last week, Curtis Webb visited, discussing development financing with Gerald, the bank president who oversees large commercial loans. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Apparently, I've heard that Webb has been acquiring farms and transforming them into housing developments. The new subdivision near Mitchum's place was once the Cartwright farm, bought by Webb 18 months ago. I knew the land. John Cartwright had farmed it for 6 decades before his wife passed away, and he moved to a nursing home. Within 6 months, the barn, house, and other structures were demolished, replaced by cul-de-sacs and vinyl siding. Upon someone entering the bank, a cold draft carried the scent of winter, road salt, and diesel fumes. Teague inquired about anything else, specifically regarding an equipment loan. I confirmed it wasn't that. Grateful for our conversation, I left for home, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. This time not due to chilliness. Upon my arrival, Linda's car was parked in the driveway. I found her in the kitchen preparing lunch. The aroma of tomato soup, a blend of sweetness and tanginess, permeated the room. She had arranged 2 bowls. You visited the bank thrice. She paused, stirring. The spoon struck the pot with a resonating clink. You obtained market evaluations, inquired about liquidation, all without informing me. I was amassing information. For him, for us. She switched off the stove so we could make an informed decision. I have already made my decision. This farm isn't up for sale. She placed the spoon forcefully on the counter. You are not entitled to make that decision independently. The hell I'm not. My name is on the deed, our names, and I hold power of attorney. The words struck like a blow. I fixed my gaze on her. What? She delved into her handbag, extracted a document, and placed it on the kitchen table amidst the soup bowls. You signed this a decade ago, recall, when you had that medical incident. We agreed I should be able to make decisions if something happened to you. I perused the document, my signature at its base, a durable power of attorney assigned to Linda Marie Brennan, an attorney in fact. This was for medical decisions, but also extended to financial matters. I scanned it, then read it thoroughly. The legalese ran together, but certain phrases stood out. Authority to manage, sell, or dispose of real estate. Make financial decisions. Act in the principal's best interests. My throat constricted. It seemed you intended to sell the farm using this. Curtis claims it's all legal, as long as I act with good faith and make decisions I believe are best for both of us, he says. I glanced at her. How long have you been spending time with him? Really? She remained silent. Linda, he's been incredibly helpful, clarifying our options, demonstrating what life could be like if we sold out, abandoned everything your family built. That's not your family, not mine. Her voice was soft, almost inaudible. I joined this family, but it never truly belonged to me, did it? That's not the case. How the land has been appraised, and there are potential buyers interested, developers who wish to establish communities here. Families with children, life all possibilities. She paused, moving the soup spoon back onto the table. We could finalize the deal in spring, around April or May, relocating to Arizona by summer. Spring closing was her plan, already mapped out. I reached for my phone and dialed Jerry Mitchell, my legal friend. After 3 rings, his voice came over, his office noise audible in the background. Jerry, can the power of attorney I signed for Linda a decade ago be used to sell property? There's a pause, paper shuffling on his end. It depends on the specifics. Most POAs include real estate authority unless it's explicitly excluded. When did you sign it? 2014. If it's broadly written, then yes, she likely can. However, revoking it could lead to contested territory, and even then, if sale proceedings have already begun, things might get complicated. How complicated? It could be a legal battle, potentially taking months. I ended the call, gazed at Linda seated opposite me. The untouched soup lay between us, emitting a waft of dissipating vapor. Last week, Curtis initiated preliminary legal procedures, she informed me, merely to set things in motion. Not definitive, but initiated without my knowledge. Because you'd never assent, you'd rather linger in this chill and perish alone than acknowledge the necessity. This isn't a matter of time. It's about, I faltered, struggled to voice my thoughts. This is theft, Linda. Regardless of legality, this is you appropriating my land. It's our land, and I'm weary of it dictating our lives. She abandoned the soup on the table, exited. I heard her car ignite, heard her depart. In the vacant kitchen, the pungent aroma of spoiling tomatoes filled the air, and I comprehended. This wasn't infidelity. This wasn't about another man. This was more insidious. She was dispossessing me of everything, and the law might permit her to do so. I sped to Virgil's residence, made no call beforehand, merely visited. My brother's farm borders mine. 200 acres is still his labor, despite him being 72 and having a problematic hip with colder weather. His truck was parked outside, its exhaust releasing white smoke in the cold air, engine running, him inside keeping warm. When I knocked on the window, he looked over, then shut off the truck and stepped out. It's too early for a visit, he said. Linda is selling the farm. He appeared surprised. The devil she is, he muttered. We moved indoors. His kitchen reeked of bacon grease and old coffee. The wood stove in the corner ticked as it heated up, casting warmth from the iron. Virgil filled 2 cups from the pot on the counter without asking if I wanted any and placed one in front of me. I told him everything: the GPS, Curtis Webb, the power of attorney, the preliminary paperwork already filed. When I finished, Virgil remained silent for a long while. From outside, I heard his cattle mournfully bellowing in the barn. The sound seeped through the walls. She can't do that, he finally said. Jerry asserts she has the ability, presumably due to her POA. We contest it. But how? Curtis has legal representation. The bank supports him and Linda. My voice trembled. I paused, pressing my hands against my eyes. 45 years, Virgil. I believed I knew her. Perhaps you did. Perhaps she transformed. People do that. He took a sip of coffee, winced. This appears older than anticipated. Shall I brew more? No. He placed the cup down. The kitchen grew warm now, warmth from the stove pervading the room. My coat felt excessively heavy. I shrugged it off. Curtis visited me, Virgil stated. Perhaps a month ago, roughly 6 weeks, he approached in a friendly manner, claiming to collaborate with local farmers, assisting them in optimizing their assets. That's how he phrased it, optimize, as if we're an investment portfolio. What did you respond? I informed him that I would rather die than sell, just like Dad and Grandpa would have said. He leaned back in his chair, causing it to groan under his weight. Clearly, he didn't appreciate my response, growing silent instead. After asking if I might consider it, he mentioned he'd get in touch. Has he contacted you since? No. However, now I ponder whether he needs to. Perhaps he believes if he acquires your property, mine will be next. Surround me. Make me the last holdout. The stove clicked again. A log shifted within, sparking. I can't let it go, I said. Tom, don't you remember? He asked about driving the tractor during Thanksgiving, showing an interest in farming. That boy possesses it, Virgil. The passion for it. What do I tell him if I give it up? You tell him his grandfather fought and lost. Virgil stood and approached the window, gazing upon his property extending beyond, with fence lines merging into the horizon. Dad used to say something, recall, during hard times when the bank threatened and half the farms in this region collapsed during the 80s, he said many things. He said a Brennan never gives up. What matters are blood and soil. The rest is merely noise. He turned around. Is that still true for you? I studied him. My elder brother, now with gray hair and a weathered face from decades of labor. Indeed, his description hasn't changed. We delved into the matter at hand. He returned to the table and now discussed the power of attorney she was utilizing for property decisions. But isn't the original deed, the one Grandpa obtained when he purchased the property in 48, indisputable? It should be. Could you recall where it's stored? I tried to recollect. My father had shown it to me many years ago. Perhaps it's in a safety deposit box, or maybe he mentioned keeping important documents somewhere fireproof. Virgil's eyes narrowed. The tractor. What was that about? The toolbox on the 1957 Deere truck. My father used to store things there, wrapped in oilcloth, concealed behind the wrench set. He gestured at me. Before you lie down, inspect that tractor. If the original deed is present and has a clear title history, Curtis's documents may be irrelevant. I rose. A faint glimmer of hope ignited, delicate and precarious. I will search it. You do the same. And how? He gripped my shoulder. This battle, you're not facing it alone. The courthouse stood on Main Street, its stone steps marked in the centers from a century of footfall. I ascended them gradually, feeling the chill through my boots. Inside, the marble floors reverberated, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The clerk's office was situated on the second floor, beyond the courtroom where I served jury duty twice and attended my nephew's adoption hearing. Tom Westfield looked up as I entered. We attended school together, played baseball in the same summer league 4 decades prior. His hair had receded significantly now, glasses resting on his nose. He called out my name. Upon noticing the vacant office behind him, he mentioned a need to check on a filing regarding something. There seemed to be a change in his demeanor. He moved from behind the counter, drew me towards the corner by the photocopier, spoke softly. Are you searching for anything particular? Your property. Someone filed paperwork. I wish to see it. He approached his computer, typed, stared at the screen. Then he picked up a sticky note, scribbled a number on it, and silently slid it towards me. 2024118892. He had mentioned at the front desk, his voice normal now, that it was a public record. I accepted the sticky note, acknowledging with thanks. Hal waited until I looked at him. There have been others, similar pattern, older farmers, same developer, all within the last 2 years. How many? 3 that I've noticed, perhaps more. He adjusted his glasses. No one resisted. I asked for the file at the front desk. The clerk, a stranger to me, delivered it 5 minutes later. I opened it on the spot. It was a quitclaim deed. The grantor was Harold James Brennan. The grantee was Web Development Holdings LLC, and the date was November 2nd. My signature, official looking, was at the bottom, but I had never signed it. Filed November 8th, 6 days ago. While I was out checking fence lines and feeding cattle, Curtis Webb was filing documents here in this courthouse that said I'd sold him my land. The marble floor beneath me felt unsteady. I grasped the countertop. "Is everything okay, sir?" The clerk appeared worried. "Do you require a copy of this document?" She produced one. I folded it and slipped it into my coat pocket before departing. Tom joined me on the outside steps. The wind blew cold and bitingly, storm clouds racing in from the west. "About that paperwork," he murmured softly. "The signature. Have you signed it?" "No," he confirmed silently. "It seemed you need a lawyer today." "I understand. You must act swiftly. Quit-claim filings have a quiet title period. Once that lapses, it becomes difficult to challenge the claim. Typically, it's 90 days. 3 months, spring, as Linda mentioned. I drove homeward. The falsified deed weighed heavily in my pocket like a stone. Upon arrival, I headed immediately to the barn, to the old deer trophy sitting in its usual corner, opened the toolbox inside, behind the wrenches, socket set, and rags stained with oil. In the recesses, I found a parcel wrapped in oily cloth. My hands trembled as I extracted it. 1948 marked the date on the concealed deed within, granting 180 acres to Andrew Brennan, my grandfather, and bearing his faded ink signature. Attached was another deed, this one from 1979, where Andrew conveyed the property to Robert Brennan, my father. Behind that lay a 1998 deed transferring it to Harold James Brennan, me. This uninterrupted lineage traced back to the original deed, sheltered in a tractor toolbox for protection. In the barn, surrounded by diesel fumes and hay particles, I grasped the truth. Curtis had attempted forgery, but I held the authentic document. Exactly 3 days afterward, Curtis Webb made his appearance. While greasing the baler inside the barn, I heard a truck arrive in our driveway, no tractor, but an expensive model with a silent engine. Emerging from a black F-250 as pristine as new was Curtis Webb himself, donning a North Face jacket and immaculate boots unfamiliar with mud. He extended his hand, offering a greeting. "Mr. Brennan," he said with a smile, to which I did not reciprocate. "Understandable," he withdrew his hand. "Can we discuss things then?" A few moments. Nothing substantial to discuss. Yet, I sense otherwise. He rummaged through his truck and presented a bundle of blueprints. Desiring to share something with me, the proposed designs for the land, our vision. "Evict me from my land. May I call you Hal?" Upon unfurling the plans on his vehicle's hood, site layouts, subdivision blueprints, miniature houses, cul-de-sacs, and a retention pond became visible. "This will be magnificent. Cedar Ridge Estates, 63 homes, young families, children frolicking in the streets. It's precisely what this region demands." I scrutinized the blueprints. My barn, house, familiar fence lines all vanished from these designs, replaced by tidy little boxes. "Linda desires this," Curtis stated. "She perceives the potential here, the chance to realize." He paused his words. "She deserves happiness, wouldn't you agree? What she deserves is a husband who hasn't neglected her for 45 years. I locked eyes with him. "However, you're not justified in taking my property without permission." He chuckled, appearing relaxed. "Take? Let me clarify how. Your wife possesses legal rights. The necessary checks have been carried out. My lawyers have scrutinized all the documents. Everything is legitimate and transparent. You claim my signature on that quitclaim deed is forged." His expression didn't change. "That's quite a severe allegation." "It's the reality." He then proceeded to roll up the plans. "If you choose to challenge this, it's your prerogative. But I must warn you, lawsuits can be costly. My firm is well equipped with skilled lawyers, and if you level accusations of harassment, defamation, or interference in a legal contract against me—" He shrugged nonchalantly. "Such cases can prolong for years and may rack up hundreds of thousands in costs. There's a possibility you might lose the farm even before the case is settled, solely due to legal fees." The wind grew stronger. A chill cut through my work jacket. Curtis seemed unfazed by the cold. "I'm presenting you an alternative," he said. "Sign a voluntary sale agreement. I will increase the purchase price by 50,000. It's a gesture of goodwill. You and Linda can split it. Consider relocating to a warmer place. and this situation will peacefully resolve without legal complications or chaos. No lawyers needed. Ponder it thoroughly. He climbed back into his truck and promised to get in touch after driving off. I stood in the driveway, watching his taillights vanish on the road, feeling a chill and weight in my chest. Morning coffee at the diner was a habit, a routine that lasted 20 years. The same booth, the same time, the same group of people. Farmers mostly, some retired teachers, men from the grain elevator. We'd discuss crops, weather, and the latest news about our children. At 7:30, I walked in. The bell above the door chimed, interrupting our conversations. Everyone turned to look at me, then looked away. I sat down in my usual spot. Betty, Linda's sister, was 2 booths away with her husband, Frank. She gazed at me, then approached. "You have audacity," she said. "Betty, for 45 years, your sister stood by you, prepared your meals, washed your clothes, managed the household while you were busy being a farmer." Her voice echoed throughout the diner. "Now that she requests something for herself, you'll ruin her. This isn't. She confided in me about your controlling behavior, refusing to let her make decisions, and threatening her when she brought up alternatives." Betty's face was flushed, saying, "You ought to feel ashamed." I glanced past her, noticing everyone in the diner watching. Some faces showed sympathy, while others did not. "Did she tell you about the forged signature?" I whispered. "She said you'd fabricate stories, that you'd portray her as the villain." Betty bent down. "I know my sister. She doesn't lie. But you? You'll say anything to maintain control." She returned to her booth, and Frank wouldn't meet my gaze. The waitress, Donna, who has worked there for 15 years, approached with coffee without a word. The diner's silence was palpable. I left a 5 on the table and exited, my truck being the only one in the parking lot. Others had arranged carpools or were lingering indoors to discuss me unabashedly. I drove home alone, finding the road deserted with fields frozen and barren on either side. Upon reaching my driveway, I noticed orange survey stakes no longer along the boundary, but scattered across my front field. A dozen, possibly more, each tagged. Approaching the closest one, I read sold, followed by parcel 4, lot 17. I moved on to the next one, same label, but lot 18. He was partitioning it, even with the legal dispute ongoing. Curtis seemed so certain of victory that he was already marking and numbering my land for sale. I tugged at one stake, then another. The ground resisted, half frozen, leaving my hands freezing cold. As I continued to remove them, I grew hot, despite the chill. My back ached, my hands were raw by the time I'd cleared them all. I stacked the posts near the barn, their orange flags swaying like signs of capitulation in the wind. My phone rang. It was Virgil. "Had you heard about the diner? You were there. Betty's telling everyone that you're financially abusing Linda. Many people believe it." He hesitated before speaking. "How? This is serious." Through the kitchen window, I could see inside. The table where Linda and I used to have breakfast. The stove she had prepared 45 years of meals on. The life we thought we'd built. The truck belonging to Curtis passed by slowly on the road. He waved, but I didn't return the gesture. "Yes," I replied to Virgil. "It's serious." For the next 2 days, I stayed at the library on Jefferson Street. The old one with computers in the back and microfilm machines older than most of the staff. I began with obituaries, going back 2 years. I printed any mentioning farm sales or estate liquidations. The printer buzzed and clicked, spitting out pages that smelled of hot toner. 4 names stood out to me. John Cartwright, 81. 74-year-old Ellen Vasquez passed away 6 months after selling her farm, as mentioned in the obituary. She had recently moved to an assisted living facility and was survived by her wife Margaret, who died earlier. Robert and Susan Chen, with no apparent relation found, both in their 70s, sold their dairy operation after serving the community for 50 years. Their obituary appeared 11 months following the sale. I verified this information through property records, revealing that each was purchased by Web Development Holdings, LLC. A young librarian, presumably not older than 25, inquired about the papers I was printing. She asked if I found what I needed and thanked me when I handed over the documents. She nodded sympathetically at the obituaries. She shared that she grew up on the Cartwright farm before it was sold. Her mother worked there during her childhood. Upon hearing this, Mr. Cartwright resisted selling but eventually did so after his wife's death, as someone convinced him that managing such a large property as an elderly man would be too challenging. Who persuaded him? A friendly developer, a regular visitor to my mom's house every week, helping with groceries and paperwork. My mom mentioned he moved to Pineview, then 6 months later disappeared. She claimed he passed away from a broken heart. I drove home with documents on the passenger seat as the heater in my truck produced warm air that carried a scent of dust and antifreeze. Upon reaching home, I spread all the papers on the kitchen table. 4 farms, each owned by an elderly proprietor who had sold within the last 2 years to Curtis Webb. The phone rang, displaying Tommy's number grandpa. He asked if it was true we couldn't visit the farm for Christmas as Mom said we were having disagreements. His voice was soft, and I could hear cartoons playing in the background, a sign that his normal life remained untouched and innocent. I confirmed we were addressing some issues, but he assured me I could still visit since he had promised I would learn to drive the tractor once grown up. You're still welcome to drop by. My word is my bond. Following our conversation, I remained seated with the documents scattered before me and realized a truth. This wasn't solely about me and Linda or our 45-year union or determining right from wrong. It was about Curtis Webb. Repeating the same scheme he had executed 4 times prior, his targets were elderly farmers, his strategy to befriend their isolated wives, his method of exploiting paperwork, buying land at bargain prices, and eventually reselling it for a fortune. Unless I intervened, he would repeat this act again. Through Tom at the courthouse, I located an attorney, Sarah Chen, aged 31, who passed her bar exam 3 years ago. She primarily handled pro bono cases from a small office above Main Street's pharmacy. The stairs emitted a groan under my weight, and the scent of old wood permeated from the hand soap in the pharmacy below. Her office was compact, with a desk cluttered with folders and law books stacked on the floor. She looked up when I knocked. "Mr. Brennan?" she asked. "You can call me Bill." I explained that Tom mentioned you required assistance with a property dispute. I handed her the file. The quitclaim deed, traced back to the original 1948 deed from the toolbox, along with Linda's power of attorney, obituaries, and property records I had printed. She studied them diligently for 10 minutes without a word. "The signature on this quitclaim deed, is it yours?" "No, you're sure. I recognize my own signature." She drummed her pen against the desk. "The POA is wide-ranging, extremely so. In most instances, this would grant your wife authority to execute property sales. However, she emphasized the quitclaim deed, filed on November 8th. When did your wife first mention the prospect of selling to the bank?" "She began meeting with them in September." "Was this before the POA discussion started?" I pondered. Linda had asked me to sign some papers around late October, which I did without careful reading, trusting her. "The POA was executed on October 25th, Sarah confirmed as she read the document. If she began negotiating sales in September while lacking authority and subsequently made a record of this, it suggests either fraud or a poor execution of fiduciary duty. Can we prevent it? Perhaps." She checked her calendar. The quitclaim was filed on November 8th, initiating a 90-day quiet title period, which means we're looking at February 6th. After that, contesting becomes increasingly difficult. With less than 3 months left, she glanced at the obituaries. In this pattern, 4 other farms had also been sold to the same developer. You mentioned that 2 of these families included elderly members who passed away shortly after selling. "Yes, all of them." Her jaw tightened. "Mr. Brennan, Hal, it seems your wife might be another victim in this scheme. This Curtis Webb is not merely a developer. He's exploiting vulnerable individuals by identifying their weaknesses. I will take on your case. There won't be any fees. However, we must act swiftly. What do you need from me?" "Everything: bank records, correspondence, anything that Curtis Webb provided to your wife." She picked up the ancient deed, examining it under light, potentially our winning card. If we can establish a continuous title ownership and prove the quitclaim was forged, we nullify his filing entirely. I stood up. When do we take action? Now. She retrieved a legal notepad. Recount everything from the start, leaving nothing out. The office window displayed Main Street beneath it, Christmas lights adorning the lampposts. People were shopping, leading ordinary lives. I sat back down and began speaking. Sunday service, missed only when roads were impassable, for 40 years otherwise. I entered through the side door, smelling the mix of old hymnals and lemon furniture polish. The pews filled up, families settling in, children restless. Betty spotted me first. She stood from her pew, crossed the aisle. "You have audacity to show your face here." The crowd turned, conversation ceased. Betty's voice echoed to the back of the church. "My sister is petrified of you. 45 years of control, yet you attempt to demolish when she asserts herself." Pastor Mills exited his office. "Betty, this isn't the suitable venue. He's financially exploiting her." Betty's complexion was flushed. "He prevents her from accessing their funds, denies her autonomy over their joint assets. Moreover, he threatened her when she attempted to plan for their future together." "That's not correct," I whispered mildly. "Linda informed me of everything. Your surveillance of her phone, your scrutiny of every expenditure, making her feel imprisoned on that farm." Betty moved nearer. "You are a tyrant, Hal, and everyone here should realize it." The prelude of the organ tried to re-establish order. Pastor Mills touched Betty's arm. "Let's discuss this in private. After the service." "No." She shrugged him off. "This man has harmed my sister for years. Someone needs to vocalize it." I glanced beyond her. Nearly half the congregation was nodding. The other group seemed uneasy, hesitant. No one defended me. "I declared a falsified deed," I asserted. "Inquire from your sister about that matter." "You're fabricating the truth to maintain dignity," Betty accused, her voice breaking. "Such is what abusers do, they deceive." I departed once more. The chilly breeze smacked me harshly. Behind me, the organ persisted, and I could hear Betty weeping, people consoling her. My truck was isolated in the parking lot. I remained inside it, gripping the steering wheel as I observed families entering the church via my rearview mirror. Curtis Webb's vehicle passed by slowly, and he waved. I chose not to respond. Sarah phoned later that day. I was in the barn, verifying the fence line where Curtis' survey crew had been active. Footprints in the mud, discarded cigarettes, diesel fumes lingering from their machinery filled the air. "What's up?" It turned out that Curtis Webb had an assistant, a woman named Jennifer Oakes. She left 6 weeks prior. Papers shuffled on Sarah's end. I managed to contact her via LinkedIn. She consented to discuss matters. And she maintained records, emails, papers, voice notes. Curtis follows an organized scheme. Sarah's tone turned strained. He prefers targeting elderly farmers, specifically those who lost their spouses or have isolated wives. He scrutinizes their finances, discovers their weaknesses, then offers the wives a guarantee of safety, freedom, a brighter future. A sense of unease washed over me. "How many victims are there?" "Jennifer has traced 7. Your farm brings it to 8. Over the past 3 years, 4 have already completed transactions. The ones you found obituaries for, 3 are under investigation. 7 families, 7 farms. Each case follows the same pattern. She possesses evidence. Emails with Curtis labeling targets as easy pickings. Voice notes where he offers advice to his surveyor on secretly marking boundaries without the husband's knowledge. Correspondence with his lawyer concerning manipulating the wife angle." Sarah paused, her voice filled with disbelief. "This appears to be a conspiracy, a systematic fraud targeted at defenseless elderly individuals." Viewing my fields from the barn doorway, I saw the land my grandfather cleared, fence posts set by my father, and a life I've cultivated for 68 years. What are my next steps? Tomorrow morning, I'll file an emergency injunction to halt any sale, transfer, or development activities pending investigation. Copies will also be sent to the district attorney. Her voice became stern. "Curtis Webb isn't just a poor businessman, he's a predator." "Will the judge grant it?" "Given this evidence, yes." Jennifer's testimony alone would likely suffice. However, coupled with the original deed, forged signature, and similar patterns across numerous farms, we have a strong case. She paused. We've got him, Hal. For real, we do. I sat on a hay bale as the barn remained quiet apart from the wind whistling through the siding gaps, a sound that has been constant throughout my life. What about Linda? That's a complex matter. She signed documents and attended meetings. If we can confirm Curtis controlled her and took advantage of her seclusion, she could still be considered a victim. She wouldn't be blameless, but neither would she be the antagonist. What's the date for the hearing? I'm asking for priority consideration. It might be as soon as this week. She showed hesitation. Hal, Curtis will contest this. He has investors, contracts, and financial obligations at stake. This won't be straightforward. Nothing about this situation has been straightforward. Are you prepared for that? I glanced at the fields, where a tractor had stood untouched for 60 years, at the fences that had withstood storms, droughts, and all other trials the world inflicted upon them. Yes, I replied, I'm ready. After our call ended, I traversed the entire property, which spanned 180 acres. It took me 2 hours. The soil was beginning to thaw, and signs of mud season were already apparent. Water collected in the depressions, mirroring the overcast sky. I discovered 3 additional survey markers planted by Curtis's team, yanked them out, and placed them next to the barn. Upon my return home, there was a message waiting on my answering machine. Tom from the courthouse. Hal, Sarah's filing is scheduled for tomorrow. Good news, but you should be aware that Curtis also filed something. A motion to hasten the quiet title case. He aims to finalize the process before you can intervene. The hearing is set for this coming Friday, in just 4 days. I stood in an empty kitchen, listening to Tom's voice reverberate, and realized this was it 4 days until the climax, win or lose everything. I drove to Betty's house on Wednesday evening. Linda, who has been there since Thanksgiving, has stayed almost 3 weeks now. The porch light shone yellow against the night, and I could see shadows moving through the window. Betty answered the door. She refused to see me. I requested a 5-minute chat. Hadn't you caused enough trouble? Please. Reluctantly, Betty moved aside, but her jaw was rigid. I remained where I stood. In the living room, Linda sat on the couch, wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. She seemed smaller somehow, thinner. Chamomile filled the air, and a gas fireplace hummed quietly in the corner. Linda looked up, her eyes bloodshot. Tomorrow, Sarah files the injunction. I explained, so you're genuinely intending to sue me, forcing a court battle. I'm preventing fraud, Hal. You're not a deception, you're my wife. Not a scam. Her voice cracked. I've been by your side for 45 years. Doesn't that mean anything? Betty edged nearer, protective. I sat facing them in the chair. The gas fireplace murmured softly. From somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Curtis has repeated this act before, I said. On 7 other farms, the same pattern. He seeks out elderly farmers, forms friendships with their wives, deceives them into selling, then resells the land for vast sums. That's not. Linda paused, setting down her tea. He was aiding us, she stopped. He was manipulating you. You aren't certain of that. His assistant saved records, emails where he referred to you as an easy target, audio memos discussing his intention to exploit your solitude. I leaned in. Linda, I'm not intending to upset you. I'm speaking the truth. She placed her hands on her face, trembling. Betty approached her, kneeling beside her. Lynn, what is he discussing? Curtis, Linda spoke softly through her muffled voice. He affirmed understanding, having also grown up on a farm, aware of its hardships and solitude. He presented photos of condos in Arizona, with communities boasting pools and activities, places where people lived, not merely survived. And you trusted him. Yes, she stood abruptly. Yes, I trusted him. Because you never inquired about my feelings. In the 45 years we've been together, not once did you ask if I was content or desired something else. You simply assumed I'd be satisfied as your passive partner on that cold hill. The fireplace crackled again. Betty hesitated, unsure now. I didn't realize you were unhappy, I said quietly, because you rarely showed it. Linda moved towards the window. Do you comprehend what it feels like? Each morning as you departed at dawn and returned after nightfall, filled with diesel and earth aromas, engaging in discussions about fences, machinery, or weather, never about us or me, I wished to express my feelings. You didn't notice my silent pleas. All you heard was the land. Those words lingered, echoing painfully within me. Perhaps I loved the farm more than I loved you, I conceded. Maybe I fell short in ways I can't perceive. Rising, I spoke. Yet, Curtis' actions, though legal, did not erase that forged signature. I was unaware of it. Her voice quivered softly. He insisted the power of attorney encompassed everything, that it was all above board. Did we ever discuss the POA before you signed it? She averted her gaze. Linda, September, he initially reached out to me in September, mentioning his interest in the area and our farm's potential. She enclosed herself with her arms. He was compassionate. Discuss with me about winters, solitude, invisibility. Yet you didn't respond. I knew you'd dismiss it, not even willing to entertain the topic. Her gaze locked with mine. All I desired from you, Hal, was one choice, a single decision that belonged solely to me. Is that unreasonable? Not wrong, merely. I halted. It holds no significance now. Fact is, it's already been done. Betty's phone rang. She ventured into the kitchen to respond. I informed her it was Friday for the hearing. Sarah will present evidence concerning Curtis's pattern, his manipulation. You may be summoned to testify. On which side? That decision lies with you. She resumed her seat. If I testify against Curtis, the entire town will learn about it. They'll find out regardless. And if I don't, then you'd be implicated in fraud. Betty returned, still on the phone. Her complexion was ashen. It was Curtis who called. He warned me that if I testify tomorrow, he'll file a lawsuit against me for breach of contract. He claims I made promises, signed agreements. Looking at me, then at Betty, she lowered her gaze to her hands. I'm weary, she whispered. I'm weary of it all. I departed, leaving them behind, stepping into the frosty outside. The air carried the scent of a nearby wood fire intermingling with my truck's exhaust. Awaiting me back home were Sarah and Virgil in the kitchen, and Tom with his laptop displayed on the table. The ceiling light cast severe shadows. Jennifer had sent more, Sarah informed me. One email was highlighted, addressed to Curtis' lawyer, investors, surveyors, and others, all detached, analytical. A particular one caught my attention, targeting Brennan Farm. Wife is prime, secluded, resentful, yearning for transformation. Husband's a relic, unaware until the documents are filed. Expected arrival time, spring closure. Virgil murmured under his breath, he called you a dinosaur. Sarah displayed another email. This one was to his banker. Quotation, the old man won't recognize the blow before it lands. By the time he gets legal help, we'll have cleared title. The plan is to let the situation unfold. Tom relaxed in his seat. That's calculated deceit, unquestionable fraud. In the recording Sarah played, Curtis's voice, captured from his vehicle. The objective is to keep the situation under control. We don't want the husband suspecting anything before the wife takes action. Once she's committed, he can't retreat. Our legal team has the power of attorney on our side if she cooperates. The recording concluded. The kitchen was still, save for the hum of the refrigerator. Judge Whitmore is listening to this, Virgil inquired. Yes, he's impartial. Strict, but fair, Sarah shut her laptop. We will present this evidence tomorrow, together with the original deed, analysis of the forged signature, and Jennifer's testimony. Curtis will be brought down. What about Linda? I questioned. That depends on her decisions. Sarah looked at me. If she tells the truth, admits he manipulated her, she could avoid charges. If she shields him, she implied, then she becomes an accomplice. Virgil filled the coffee pot, its sound echoing as it finished brewing. He offered me a cup. Are you prepared for this? He inquired. I pondered over Linda and Betty's living room, Curtis passing my farm with a wave, and Tommy inquiring about visits. Indeed, I replied, I'm prepared. Tom gathered his laptop. We meet at the courthouse at 9 sharp. See you. Following their departure, solitude filled the kitchen. The house was still. No Linda preparing dinner, no sounds of her moving around. Only the silence, my only companion. An owl hooted outside while the furnace hummed, pushing warm air through the vents. Tomorrow, we'd discover if 45 years of labor could be robbed with a signature, or if some things were worth defending after all. The courthouse steps glistened with morning frost. I ascended them gradually. Virgil by my side, Sarah ahead with her briefcase. Sunrise was breaking, casting long shadows on the stone. Indoors, marble floors reverberated with footsteps. A scent of floor wax and aged wood filled the air. People in suits, mostly lawyers, whispered softly. Tom pointed out that the courtroom was full. 4847 County Road 16's property is the focus of an emergency hearing, with Harold James Brennan as the current owner and Miss Chen filing the injunction. Sarah, standing before the court, explained that the case revolves around a systematic fraud aimed at exploiting elderly farmers. It was revealed that a quitclaim deed was falsely filed without Mr. Brennan's knowledge or approval, using a forged signature. Moreover, it was alleged that the same scheme was utilized by defendant Curtis Webb against at least 7 other families within the county. Curtis's legal representative responded, "Objection, speculation, and character slander. Mrs. Brennan legally possesses the power of attorney, which she acquired deceptively." Sarah interrupted, and this document was signed after Mr. Webb had already started discussing property matters. Whitmore raised his hand. "I'll listen to the proof. Miss Chen, bring forth your first witness." The plaintiff, Harold Brennan, stepped forward. I walked to the stand. The Bible felt cold under my palm as I swore in. Sarah approached. "Mr. Brennan, when did you learn that your property was being sold?" "It was on November 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving." "Had you authorized this sale?" "No." "Had you signed any documents for the sale?" "No." She showed me the quitclaim deed. "This is filing number 2024118892. Is this your signature?" I examined it. "No, ma'am." "Are you positive about that?" I recognize my own signature. Curtis's attorney stood. "Your Honor, Mrs. Brennan legally has a valid power of attorney, giving her authority." "When was the POA signed?" Sarah asked. The lawyer for Curtis shuffled through documents. "The 25th of October. Inquire about the initial contact between Mr. Webb and Mrs. Brennan regarding the property sale." "Reply," Sarah said. "The 12th of September. Bank records indicate that Mrs. Brennan met with Curtis Webb at First National Bank on this date, over 6 weeks before the power of attorney was executed. Thus, she had no legal authority." Whispers in court. Whitmore strikes gavel once. Sarah produces additional documents. "Moreover, I have testimonies from 3 witnesses, a bank officer, a surveyor, and Mr. Webb's former assistant, all verifying that Mr. Webb initiated this sale before Mrs. Brennan had any legal standing to discuss it." Defense lawyer persists. Whitmore requests silence. Sarah moves towards the bench. "I seek permission to introduce evidence of a pattern," Sarah says. "Mr. Webb has allegedly used this scheme on 7 other properties over the past 3 years. She presents a folder. 4 families have since become homeless following the sale of their homes. In the span of a year, 4 elderly homeowners passed away post-sale. The courtroom fell silent as Whitmore scrutinized the documents. His jaw clenched. "Call your next witness," Miss Chen ordered. Jennifer Oakes stepped forward, appearing both apprehensive and resolute. For 2 years, she worked for Curtis, maintaining records due to an uneasy feeling. "What was Mr. Webb's business model?" Sarah inquired. Jennifer's hands trembled slightly. "He preyed upon elderly farmers, focusing particularly on those whose wives were secluded or discontent. By researching their financial status, family dynamics, and areas of vulnerability, he would then approach the wives discreetly, offering them security, a way out, an improved life." "Did he employ those specific phrases?" "Yes, he referred to it as playing the wife card." She glanced at Curtis. He kept a catalog, labeling them as easy targets. More whispers filled the courtroom. Betty's gaze was now fixed on Curtis, her complexion pallid. Sarah opened her laptop. "The Brennan farm is sealed off. Project Cedar Ridge advances into the development phase with an expected ROI of 400%. The old man is outdated. He won't resist for long. Your Honor, stands Curtis's lawyer. These emails are misconstrued. Clarify. Whitmore's tone sharpens. The context is evident, counselor. Your client orchestrated a systematic fraud scheme. He turns to Jennifer. Miss Oakes, how many properties did Mr. Webb obtain using these tactics? 7 completed, 3 ongoing, including the Brennan farm. And the families? Most have lost contact with one another. The elderly owners, those who passed away, I believe they died of grief, losing their land after dedicating their lives to it. Whitmore sets down his documents. Mr. Webb, stand up. Curtis stands. He seems smaller now, trapped. Do you deny making these remarks? Curtis's lawyer whispers to him. Curtis nods. Then let me make this clear, Whitmore says. This court finds evidence of fraud, forgery, and exploitation of the elderly. 2024's filed quitclaim deed with number 892 is invalid. An injunction prohibiting sale or development of the Brennan property has been issued. Curtis met your gaze. Moreover, I am referring this case to the district attorney for a criminal investigation. Methods will be scrutinized. Curtis paled. Your Honor, without closing these deals, you should have anticipated the consequences of forging signatures. Whitmore turned to me. Brennan, do you possess the original deed? Sarah passed it forward. Dated 1948, Your Honor. An uninterrupted lineage of ownership from Andrew Brennan to Robert Brennan to Harold Brennan is evident on this deed. Whitmore inspected it, held it up to the light. This document is valid, and it overrules any quitclaim deed Mr. Webb submitted. He returned it. Your property remains yours, Mr. Brennan. The gavel struck. A wave of relief washed over me. Virgil grasped my shoulder. Sarah was smiling, collecting papers. Curtis's legal representatives were departing, leaving him solitary at his table. His investors would withdraw, his agreements would dissolve, the DA would indict. He'd forfeited everything. Linda was weeping in the rear section. Betty was now beside her, offering comfort. When Linda glanced at me, I perceived all her emotions. Relief, embarrassment, sorrow, acknowledgement. She'd been manipulated, but she'd also made decisions. We were both implicated. The sun was ascending now, temperate for December outside. The frost had thawed from the courthouse steps, leaving them slick and dark. Tom joined me later. 4 other families are lodging complaints. Curtis is finished. Sarah was conversing on her phone with the DA's office. Virgil lingered by my vehicle, anticipating. Curtis emerged with his legal team. They proceeded without acknowledging anyone. His vehicle was at the remote end of the parking lot. He got in, remained for a moment, then departed. You prevailed, Virgil stated. Yes, yet why aren't you appearing joyful? I glanced back at the courthouse. Linda and Betty emerged slowly, their progression sluggish. Linda's countenance was marred by tears, her visage speckled with redness. Since it took everything else, I stated, the divorce documents would soon arrive. The farm had been preserved, but the marriage had disintegrated. Sometimes triumphs resemble defeats. Virgil comprehended. He merely nodded, climbed into his pickup, and waited for me to precede him home. The district attorney pressed charges 3 days following the hearing. Charges of wire fraud, forgery, elder exploitation were filed against Curtis Webb, who was seen on evening news entering the courthouse with his lawyer. No comment for the cameras from him. 4 additional families stepped forward. The Cartwright's daughter filed a lawsuit on behalf of her deceased father. The Vasquez family retained Sarah as their legal representative. The Chent's son drove up from California, carrying boxes filled with documents his parents had signed, all following the same pattern. All were deceived in the same manner. Curtis's construction company crumbled within a week. His investors withdrew their funds. The bank demanded repayment of his loans. Cedar Ridge Estates, my intended land development, no longer materialized as mere drawings on paper, dreams unrealized. Through Tom, I learned Curtis was attempting to sell his house, financing legal fees due to his wife's divorce filing. Some fragment of me nearly felt pity for him. Almost. Linda transferred to a compact apartment situated above the Main Street bakery. Assisting her in moving boxes up the slender stairs, I transported her clothing, books, and 45-year-old photo albums. The space exuded sense of fresh bread and ancient radiator warmth. At the door, she mentioned, "I'll deliver the divorce documents once they're prepared." I nodded. "Okay." She studied me intently. "I apologize, Hal, for everything. Curtis misled me about us, what we deserved." She placed down the box she held. Yet, we both made decisions. Aware of something amiss, I simply chose not to recognize it. How will you fare, all alone in the wilderness? I retrieved the final box from the hallway, leaving behind Virgil, Tommy, and the property. She gave a wistful smile upon hearing about the land. "You always go for the land." I departed, commencing her life in that modest apartment filled with bakery aromas and the distant hum of Main Street below. Betty encountered me at the diner 2 weeks later. In my usual booth, I was savoring coffee. The morning hubbub had returned to its normal rhythm, voices blending, no odd stares. She joined me in the seat across. "I owe you an apology," she admitted. "You were defending your sister." I erred. Her coffee cup, already their courtesy of the waitress, was clutched tightly by her. Betty admitted what Curtis had said to Linda and how he deceived her, the documents she signed unknowingly. Tears filled Betty's eyes. "I called you an abuser, publicly, in church. You believed you were acting righteously. That doesn't make it right." She lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry, Hal, sincerely." Acceptance of apology granted. She placed a 5 on the table for her coffee and departed. From the window, I observed her get into her car. The sun had ascended, growing warmer as March arrived gently. On a Saturday morning, I walked along the fence line. The ground was entirely thawed, pulling my boots into the mud. Puddles formed in the low areas, mirroring the blue sky. The aroma of genuine earth, no longer frozen, permeated the air. All the survey markers were absent. I had removed each one, discarding them. Orange flags lay scattered. Curtis's housing developments disappeared before they materialized. The tractor remained in the barn, anticipating. I had adjusted the oil the day prior, replaced the air filter, and lubricated every connection. Spring planting was imminent, and the 57 deer was prepared. My truck arrived at the driveway around 10. I heard it from the barn, heard the doors open, heard Tommy's voice. "Grandpa," he sprinted across the yard, aged 8, with a gap-toothed smile and brimming with energy. My mother trailed behind, bearing a picnic hamper. She granted permission for me to visit. Tom tumbled into me, hugging my waist. She confirmed the farm was secure following your victory. "Indeed, son. By the way, can I operate the tractor? You mentioned it before." I glanced at his mother, our daughter. She gave a nod of agreement. "Let's go," I said, guiding him to the barn. The 57 deer stood there under the morning light, its green paint faded, seat worn smooth from generations of Brennan men. My grandfather's tractor, my father's, now mine and potentially his if he desired it. I hoisted him onto the seat. His feet didn't reach the pedals, and his hands only just gripped the steering wheel. "All right," I said, offering the key. "Turn it softly. It may sputter before it starts." He turned the key. The diesel engine sputtered again, then started, releasing its familiar growl through the barn. Black smoke escaped from the exhaust. The blend of diesel and history enveloped us. "What's next?" Tom asked above the noise. "Now we're plowing." I clambered up behind him, steering his hands on the wheel. We gradually emerged from the barn, venturing into the field where I had earlier demarcated the furrows. The plow sliced through the earth. New soil was upturned, dark and fertile. Meadowlarks serenaded us from the fence posts. The sun bathed my face in its initial warmth after a long spell of cold. Tommy chuckled as we initiated the first trench. His hands tightened around the wheel as if it held life itself. Perhaps it did. "Will this truly be yours one day?" he inquired. "If you desire it, if you will nurture it." "I shall." His voice betrayed a wisdom beyond his years, a promise to Grandpa. Virgil was cultivating his adjoining field, his tractor moving in tandem with ours. Upon noticing us, he gestured. I reciprocated. 2 brothers, 2 farms, 2 generations tilling the land their great-grandfather had once cleared with a mule and a plow. Some aspects alter, some remain constant. We completed the first row and began the second. Tommy was mastering it, guiding more steadily and assuredly. Behind us lay the furrowed earth as a long, dark trail. "Grandpa?" Tommy asked. "Yes, I'm glad you didn't sell." "Same here, buddy." His mother stood at the fence, phone in hand, capturing photos. She was chronicling this moment, her son learning what his grandfather had learned, and his father before him. An uninterrupted chain of traditions, spring planting, fresh growth emerging, the cycle renewed, once more some battles fought, but essential things passed on. Linda drove past us while we were working, slowed down for a brief moment, then resumed her journey towards town, towards her new life. And we continued to plow. The land was ours, the future belonged to Tommy. That was sufficient. I sit on the tractor at dawn, a week after planting, engine silent, simply listening. Morning melodies from the fence line, primarily meadowlarks returning after their winter sojourns, as soft sunlight crept over the eastern fields, gradually warming the atmosphere. The scent of turned earth and burgeoning growth permeated all. 45 years of matrimony concluded. Linda finalized the documents last week. She termed it a clean break. Perhaps that's an appropriate title. I ponder her words, about my affinity for the land surpassing my love for her, about not heeding her, about making her feel insignificant. Her observations were accurate. I clung so fiercely to this place, I overlooked her. Assumed she'd perpetually remain, like the fence posts and the barn and the sunrise. Neglected her value, just as I underestimated the changing seasons. Always arriving, always present. Curtis Webb capitalized on that, but the fissure was already there. He simply identified the weak spot. The divorce drained my savings in half. Linda accepted her portion, moved on. I've learned she works at the library now. Appears content. And me? 180 acres, a grandson fond of tractors on mornings like these. Some might say that's victory. Spring breeze sweeps through the barren branches, warmer than it has been in months. I place my hand on the steering wheel. Now warm, not cold. The seasons change regardless of readiness. Yesterday, Tommy asked if Grandma would return. I told him she wouldn't. Yet, the land remains ours, patiently waiting for him when he's prepared. A man can maintain his stance without baring his heart. I've learned that lesson the hard way. However, ground endures, hearts shatter, and one lives with both. I ignite the engine. There's labor to be done. Always work to be done. Perhaps that's the purpose. Some battles are fought. Others are surrendered. The key is discerning which is which.